This is a song for Durs. When he goes to the toilet, we sing. Hope that you have a nice poo. And when you come back, we'll get on with the thing.
Hello and welcome back to the Icons of Sin podcast. Me and Daz are back.
Hello.
How are you doing, Mr. Daz?
I'm alright, Mr. Durs. Not too bad at all. Just ready to go again. After
Ready to go again.
my technical issues.
Yeah, technical issues last week and then yesterday. Obviously, you had busy things to do. You know, you're a busy man. We're thinking we may push this show back to Sunday nights at 6 o'clock to give us an extra day.
Yeah.
To record, so that we don't have to delay or put you off any further than we have already. What have you been playing, Mr. Daz?
So as we were talking about Resident Evil last time, I did start to play Resident Evil again.
Lovely. The remake?
The remake, yeah.
How are you finding the remake?
I am loving it.
It's great, isn't it?
Yeah. Playing it now is like, it's still scary.
It is,
It's
yeah.
great.
I think it
Yeah.
is. I think it still works.
Yeah. The dogs did get me. I couldn't remember where that happened.
They change it up in the remake.
Mm.
Because there's a few times when you walk through that, because I replayed the remake as well recently. After we played, we both were like, let's just download it right now as soon as we finish the podcast. So they changed it up, haven't they? Because there's one part that actually made me fucking shit myself. You walk through the bit where the dogs are coming through.
Yes.
And one of the windows just shatters for no reason, and nothing jumps through. And that made me jump. I was like, "Oh God, you bastards, you absolute bastards!" And then it's coming back, isn't it?
It is.
Once you've done some of the puzzles and you come back through. Spoilers.
Yeah.
Then you get the issue.
It's
of
the
the dogs.
The roof coming down on you bit, isn't it? And then it's after that, right? If I remember right from last week.
Yeah, I think so. Something like that. I can't remember. I know it was. I know that going through it the first time wasn't a problem, and then it was going back through that hallway, because the first time I did it, I restarted after that, or I died, and I died, and I went back to an older save, and then I was like, okay, so it's when I go back through that hallway, and I did as much as I could to not go back through that hallway. I just avoided that hallway as much as possible, but you can't do it forever, so
No, unfortunately
eventually.
not.
I had to deal with it, but good fun.
Yeah.
I was. Yeah, go on. Sorry.
I was going to say, you got that sort of outside area where it's sort of fenced off, and there's lots of like green herb and things like that out there. It's kind of like
you can just hear the dogs out there all the time.
Yeah, and if you go back to that area a second or a third time as well, the dogs one by one sort of tend to find their way over the fence, I found.
Yes, it's an issue.
Wasn't expecting that the second time I went there.
No, and then you've got the dickhead who decided to put his important key thing on a dog.
Yeah.
Which is then just running rampant. That dog killed me. That's pretty much where I stopped playing recently.
Yeah, I remember we were sort of
messaging
about that bit. Yeah, just
it's
being
like being a child again.
Why would you put that? I mean, like, I imagine when the key was put on the dog wasn't as rabid.
Presumably not, but the thing is, dogs can be quite unpredictable, and I'm not sure that I would entrust a key to my dog.
No. Hell no.
No. I just don't. I wouldn't trust a key to my cat, and I love my cat.
Yeah, I don't. I mean, everyone loves toads. Everyone loves toads.
Everyone in the world loves toads, but
That's it.
I wouldn't trust him with a key.
No.
And I wouldn't trust a dog with a key.
No.
Let alone a zombie dog. So, do you know, I had a bottle of wine last night, and I love a good bottle of wine, and I never get a hangover with a bottle of wine. It's fine. One bottle, I'm fine. It's like nothing. It's fine. The only thing it does do is it always affects my voice. I'm all coffee and like kind of,
Yeah.
That's the only thing it does. So apologies. I'll
It's all
just press
right.
mute. I'll press mute whenever I want to cough. What are we covering today? It's a big mystery because we've only been talking about doing it for like 2 weeks now and failing to
Yeah.
do it for 2 weeks. But let the people know. Give away what is the topic of the day.
So, contrary to popular belief,
Yeah,
we are actually covering a series of games known as Command and Conquer.
total annihilation. Um, Yes, we are finally covering Command and Conquer, which it's funny. I'm a huge Command and Conquer fan, and I was I'm ashamed to say, as a huge Command and Conquer fan, I'd forgotten when we started doing this deep dive that there are actually three universes. I'd only, in my head, I was like, okay, we got the Tiberium universe, we got the Red Alert universe. That's fine. That's going to be quite a long show. And I completely forgot there's also the General's timeline.
There is.
So, three timelines. We'll try and get through it as swiftly as possible.
Hmm.
Um, shall we do what we did last time and start with go through a timeline and then do the games? Because the games actually in this case are in order of the timeline for each universe.
Yeah,
So I guess if we should we start with the Tiberium timeline?
that sounds good to me. It's, if I'm honest, one
Mental,
that yeah, it's mental.
batshit.
It's my favorite.
It is my favorite too. You will get
Yeah,
no argument from me there.
yeah. I think there's a lot of things about this series that, granted, a lot of my memories of this series, apart from sort of going back and doing a little bit of, digging in,
Mm,
um, most of my memories of this series are from when I was sort of an early teen.
yeah.
I was 10 when the original game came out, so from sort of, I think I started playing around about 13.
Mm.
Because my grandfather had bought me a PC, which is quite nice of him. Um,
My parents got me a PC. But yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I think these were sort of some of the first PC games that I really sort of touched upon that weren't solitaire,
Really?
Minesweeper.
Oh wow. Okay, so this was like a super early for you.
Yeah, 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 yeah. So,
That's cool.
I mean, I already had sort of consoles before that, but
Hmm.
this for PC gaming, this was my sort of introduction. And strategy gaming, 100% the first titles ever.
Yeah, I
You know?
would say for me too. I mean, obviously we have outside of the timeline, we have obviously Zed, and
Hmm.
we also have Warcraft, and we also have Dune 2,
Yes.
which are all kind of. I'm not sure which one came out, which ones came out first, or which ones they decided. Between those three, one of those three, I think it's probably Dune 2, but
Hmm.
between those three, we've effectively got the real time strategy as we know it
Yeah.
begins. Um, but for me, much like you, I played Warcraft, but I played it after Command and Conquer. For
Hmm.
me, Command and Conquer was my first real-time strategy game.
Yeah. So just before we dive in,
Yeah.
if you don't mind me doing so, there's just a couple of people that I wouldn't mind just sort of saying, just giving a little drop to, just because I know full well they're listening.
Mm,
They fed back to me on previous
great.
episodes
That's good.
personally and
That's
said that
great.
they've been listening. They've said it's been great during isolation to hear
Oh, thank you, guys
some
and gals.
some gaming podcasts,
Mm,
because especially with familiar voices as well. So first of all, if I can just drop one to my mate Joe, who's currently working in London. Um,
wow.
During isolation, he moved to London to work for Prime Minister, where I used to work.
Wow. He started during the lockdown.
Yeah, so basically
Wow.
he moved up there and then was immediately put into furlough in a room where he didn't know anybody and things like that.
Oh
And
my
he's
God.
he's he's used the podcast as a way of kind of hearing a familiar voice, which is quite nice.
Well, now I feel bad that we didn't record last weekend.
So do I.
Sorry.
So do I. I was speaking to him a couple of days ago, and he told me this, and I was like, "I'm sorry, mate. I had so much on. I'm sorry." Um, yeah. So Joe, we know you're listening, buddy, and hope
Thank
you're
you,
doing
Joe.
well. And also the guys over at Gamers Unite. Um,
Yes, I think I got an invite to them the other day.
Yeah, they've been sort of listening in and stuff as well,
Mm,
dropping a little bit of feedback. And Chris, we know Chris
yeah.
from our local,
Yes.
good guy. The guy who sort of founded the group. We've actually talked with him about maybe jumping into a little bit of a guest spot
Oh,
in
for
some weeks'
sure, for
time.
sure. I think with the guest stuff, it was just that we wanted to find our feet first and get used to, talking to each other. Because obviously we're
Yeah.
still doing this over Skype.
Hmm.
Usually with my previous podcasts, I've always done it in the same room, um, here.
Yeah.
But obviously, we're in lockdown and we're doing it over Skype, and it's working really well. I think it was just, we wanted to get get a feel for the show first,
Yeah.
and I think, yeah, pretty soon we'll look to get some guests on. I'd love to have Chris on. That'd be great.
Yeah. So I was talking to him about maybe doing a milestone episode, maybe like an episode 10, something
Oh
like
yeah,
that,
that sounds good.
uh,
Sounds good.
to bring a first guest on.
Mm. I would
But
like to give a shout out to Jason as well, friend from
that's a good
school.
shout.
Still listening, used to listen to me on the radio, listens to this podcast now, and he is a massive Command and Conquer fan.
Yeah.
I've got some really fond, being a schoolmate, I've got some really fond gaming memories with Jason.
Lovely.
So it's really nice going back over this stuff,
Yeah.
knowing that Jason's listening, because like he
Yeah.
was there for some of this stuff.
Yeah.
Um,
I see you in the comments, Jason. I do see you there.
yeah,
Thanks, man. Do
yeah.
appreciate it.
So here we are, finally, Command and Conquer.
Yes.
Let's do this.
Let's do it. Where to begin?
Well, I think we should begin in 3875 BC, where,
Let's
according
do
to
that.
biblical accounts, some dude called Cain murders his brother Abel, becoming the first murderer in the entire world.
Yes. That is something that is biblically known.
That is a biblical fact. It's gospel, you could say.
It is gospel.
That was awful.
Testament.
I'm sorry, that was terrible. Sorry, I've started drinking coffee now. So, yes, then 1800 BC is the earliest alleged reports of the existence of the Brotherhood of Nod.
Yes. The only brotherhood that matters in this podcast.
Oh, we'll get to them. We will get to them for sure. So I think that World War One happens as normal in the Tiberium timeline, I believe.
Yes.
And we'll get to where things happen in World War Two when we get to Red Alert, because there is like that theory, and there is a split there that goes one goes Tiberium, one doesn't. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you think about it, but don't think about it.
Yeah,
it's
that's
fine.
where to be.
Yeah. So in 1994, United States Congress begins an investigation of several large defense corporations, and close ties to the Brotherhood of Nod are revealed. Then in 1995, Tiberium meteor impacts the Earth. Tiberium meteor impacts the Earth. And the Brotherhood of Nod emerges as a superpower.
Yes.
So the same year, the Global Defense Initiative is founded, and basically does battle against this new superpower.
They do indeed.
1996, we have the ion cannon research budget approved by the United Nations and begins development. That will come in handy later on, won't it?
It will indeed.
And then, in the late 90s, we have the first Tiberium War. So, Command and Conquer. What were your first memories, thoughts of Command and Conquer? What was it like, diving into Command and Conquer for the first time? Being the first real-time strategy that you played.
So, early thoughts. So, if I really think back to when I was playing it as a young lad, all I remember from then is loving Kane, who we'll come to.
Everyone loves Kane, right?
Yeah, I loved Kane, still do. But also, early days, not knowing really what I was doing, if I'm honest.
Mm-hmm.
I liked being able to sort of highlight units and send them to certain directions and to certain targets. That's my early memory. Looking back now, so having done a little bit of research, there are elements of this game that really went over my head.
Yep.
And looking back on them, I'm like, wow, that's amazing. Like, there's so many parallels that you see in this game to like some of the things that go on in the world. today.
Absolutely, and I mean all of these games are very they're over the top, they're melodramatic, and very humorous in many ways. Most of them, anyway.
Yeah.
And but yeah, there are a lot of parallels, especially with modern day stuff. It's quite interesting.
Yeah. So the way I look at it as well is like if you look at Nod.
Yeah.
So you've got Cain and you've got Seth.
Fucking Seth.
I know. So Seth, if you look biblically as well, is supposed to be the third son, I believe, of Adam and Eve.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so you had Cain and
There we
Abel
go.
and Seth.
Right.
And I believe Cain and Seth, from the little bit of looking into it that I did, I believe Cain and Seth were sort of, they were good to go. You know what I mean? There wasn't that thing like there was with Abel where there was a rivalry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the things that really stood out to me. So first of all, the biblical stuff I got straight away. I don't know if you remember, I hadn't seen Cain's name written in a long time, and when we were talking about Cain, the first way
you wrote biblically Cain, yes,
I did, didn't I? So because it was like that parallel is there.
He did that that old kind of Hammer horror Frankenstein thing where it's like I need to change my name, but I'll change it to something that's practically the same and really obvious.
Yeah.
So all he did to distance himself from Cain was just change the spelling.
Yeah.
And still have the same name. He was like, it's the 90s. I should use a K instead of a C. That's kind of the cool thing, right?
Yeah, so we should talk about as well the in biblical terms, Cain being the first murderer, there was a curse set upon him, in which he gains immortality, basically, doesn't he? Through the curse, he can never die.
That's right.
In Old Testament, sort of.
Yes, this is in biblical terms. Yes, that is exactly what happens.
Which will make a lot of sense going forward.
It will. It didn't make a whole lot of sense to me as a kid, though. I just ran with it. And we'll get to we'll get to the sequels after this one. But I was just like, oh, I don't care. I'm just happy that Cain's back. I never really thought much more into it than that, to be honest, as a kid, because I was born in 1984, so much like you, it was. I've been saying in the last couple of podcasts that I'm an old boy. We're basically the same age. I don't know why I keep saying.
We are, mate. Yeah, I've just been letting you have it.
Well, I think the thing is, I was just playing older games. I think is what happened. For the most part, but I never really thought into the biblical stuff too much. I was always aware, obviously, Cain and Abel, and I thought, okay, that's probably why he's called that. But I never really made the link that, that's why he's, keeps coming back and seemingly immortal.
Yeah. So one character from this game that really stands out to me as well, in terms of like a statement on how politics and the world works, is Greg Burdett.
Yeah.
Our fake news reporter. Greg Burdett. When I went back, and because I had a memory of news reports.
Oh yeah.
Things like
that. You've got the great one when for some reason you see more than you should, and you've got the green screen in the end, and Cain sort of doing, send this out in French and Spanish. I want this everywhere. We've got like 10 more minutes with the satellite. There's like, is this still on? And then shoots the
Yeah, I think is that the orphanage or the burning village? I can't remember.
I think it might be the burning village.
Yeah, and it's just kind of like. But they can obviously they're condemning GDI as like terrorists and things like that, and
I mean basically when Nod do bad things, they're trying to blame GDI and discredit GDI.
It's a very clever statement on warfare and things like that, isn't it?
It is,
yeah. Anyway, that's kind of where I am on the original Command & Conquer. Gameplay aside, I don't sort of have a deep knowledge still. I feel like there's so much more that I could learn about this series just by playing it again, but then I just need to buy them again, basically, don't I?
Yeah, I mean, I got the I have had the original Command and Conquer up and running on Windows 10 for quite some time in high resolution. There are
Lovely.
kind of mods and things out there. But honestly, and we'll get to it, I guess at the end of talking about this game, we'll get to the remaster. But the remaster is the way to go
Okay.
if you want to replay this game. And we'll get to that in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, so obviously, as you might have guessed, Command and Conquer is set in an alternate timeline and begins when a meteorite crashes near the river Tiber in Italy in the 90s. Thus, the mineral or crystals that grow from that meteor crashing is called Tiberium after the river Tiber. It's extremely toxic, the gases that this Tiberium lets off, and is fatal to humans and animals. The game doesn't tell you that, Daz.
No.
It doesn't tell you that. So you start playing the game and you get your units and you're like, oh, I'm going to build like loads of grenadiers and I'm going to, completely fuck up this nod base. And then you just been like, oh, I'll just leave them on that. Actually, I could use these soldiers to guard the harvester. I'll just leave them on this patch of Tiberium and they can guard the harvester.
Yeah.
And then they're bursting into flames. I really liked the game didn't tell you. Like you had to figure that out for yourself.
Yeah. I mean,
It tells you about halfway through the game, I think. They because one of the I can't forget his name, the soldier guy who's on the ground giving you some of the briefings. He ends up with Tiberium poisoning and dying, doesn't he? And that's when you find out that it's dangerous. But it's a good like 5 levels or so in before you realize.
Yeah.
And until then, you have to kind of figure it out for yourself. Like units will just die.
Yeah.
And I used to get.
It's a plot twist.
It is. It's just nice. It's just nice to not have your handheld so much. You've just got to figure this out for yourself. So obviously we have GDI, who are kind of the good guys, quote unquote, under the command of General Mark Jameson Shepard. I love that guy. I don't know who that actor is or what he's gone on to do, but he plays that role really well.
Yeah.
I think he's absolutely great. GDI, obviously, for me, famous for the orcas and the mammoth tanks. Those were the two units that really stick in my mind when I think of GDI. Once you get to the point of being able to build mammoth tanks, all you need to do is build mammoth tanks. I always thought, just build mammoth tanks. Just keep building them until you've got 1 million, and then just because they deal with air units, they deal with infantry very well. So it's kind of a game of chess, effectively. I guess most strategy games are, but it is a game of chess. Certain units are very good against other units.
Yeah, I find it's like a game of Risk.
Yes.
Basically, rather than just moving your troops from continent to continent, from country to country, you are zooming in on that aspect of the game and focusing
you're
in
not
detail.
Fighting a war as much as you are individual battles,
and
it's in real time. And it is, and it is kind of a risk in that sort of respect. By the way, I was so tempted to buy a game the other day as an aside called there's been a lot ongoing series I've been unaware of. I decided against it because I decided I don't have time in my life, but I would love to play it. It's called Strategic Command. World War II, and they've done loads of these strategic command games. They're kind of like a Risk-esque kind of game, or like Civilization, but just warfare.
Yeah, that's cool.
But Strategic Command World War II has upped the ante. They used to do sort of campaigns and stuff. This one, you can play the whole of World War II. Just do all of it.
No.
And manage everything. And I was like, I would love if I was single and I just had no work and I just had nothing to do. I could get absorbed in that game and play it forever. But I was like, I have to make the decision to not buy this for my own good because I have to have a life.
Yeah.
That would suck away my life. And that's the good thing about CNC, You can play CNC for, half hour, jump in, jump out, do a mission. It's good fun.
Yeah, you can.
But yeah, the mammoth tanks for me were like just good against everything. It's a game of chess until you get the mammoth tank. And then it's just like, because the mammoth tank will just run over infantry. Missiles are pretty good against infantry as well.
Yeah.
Missiles are good against air, and then you've got the twin cannons for everything else.
Yeah.
I love them.
So there was a thing that happened. I was rewatching the GDI
The cutscenes
cutscenes for this game. I did GDI and Brotherhood and Odd, just in the background, just whilst I was doing other things, just to have it there, just to absorb something a little bit,
I did the same. I went through the Tiberium and the Red Alert stuff in the background.
So I zoned out for a minute. I was doing other things, and I have no context on this quote whatsoever, which makes it hilarious.
Go on.
I remember zoning back into it to somebody shouting, "I'm a mechanical man. Can you tell me what that is?"
Yeah, it's from the song. I think it might. Oh, I don't think the song's called Mechanical Man. It might be called Mechanical Man. Maybe it's called Mechanical Man. Yeah, it's from the Frank Klepacki song. I think it's called Mechanical Man, actually. It's one of the signature, probably the best song on the Command and Conquer soundtrack. Now, the Command and Conquer soundtrack is something that we need to talk about, and Frank Klepacki in particular is something we need to talk about. And I did warn people that I was probably going to talk about the soundtrack for these games forever. One of the things that made this game, obviously we're talking early, mid 90s, CDs. And as we said with Final Fantasy VII, the CD is introduced into the game media, into game medium, right?
Yeah.
We can have proper sound now. And my God, the CD sound, Frank Klepacki's soundtrack to Command and Conquer. I owned the version of Command and Conquer that I bought, because I bought Command and Conquer, I guess, later than most. I bought the version I've got over there on, still have it, is the I think it was like a collection edition. It came with a t-shirt, it came with the soundtrack and the game.
Okay.
So I listened to the Command and Conquer soundtrack, probably influenced my music taste as much as anything else. Growing up, I listened to my dad's vinyl, so I was kind of into rock and metal at an early age because that's what Dad listened to. And Command and Conquer fit right into that because there's some rock elements, there's some metal elements, but then there's also all of these electronic elements and other elements as well. It's a tremendous soundtrack. In terms of video game soundtrack, I would say it's probably in my top 2.
Yeah, I think
it's that close to the top. It might even be my favorite soundtrack of all time.
Wow.
Yeah, I think it really is that good.
Thing to note from that as well, for anyone who hasn't heard it yet. So Klepacki was listening to bands like Nine Inch Nails, Ministry, when that industrial style metal in essence, while he was sort of composing this soundtrack. So dropped a little bit of a trick in there, didn't I? Telling you I didn't know what it was. I just wanted you to introduce it for me, Durs.
You're as devious as Seth.
I know, right? But don't shoot me. But yeah, I think anyone who's a fan of A, video games, and B, that sort of mid-90s industrial rock / metal sound, it's the game for you. 100%, even if it's just for the soundtrack. It's amazing.
It really is, and I would also highly recommend again the remaster. And we'll get to it in a moment, but the Tiberium Sons, which are a band formed by Frank Klepacki, it features Frank Klepacki plus a metal band around him. They do live performances of the Command and Conquer soundtracks, all of them, all the ones that Frank Klepacki worked on. There is a live video. I assume it's still on YouTube. It might have been taken down because of the remaster coming out, but it was worth looking up the Tiberium Sons. See if you can find their live performance from MagFest. It's one of the coolest things ever. If you love Command and Conquer music, it's amazing.
Good to know, mate. Good to know. I'll be looking up that.
Well worth looking up. We went on a right sidetrack with music there, didn't we?
We did.
So units, yes, Mammoth tanks, Orca with GDI, and then flame tanks and stealth tanks with Nod. My favorite unit of the Command and Conquer universe, any Command and Conquer universe, Tiberium, Red Alert, Generals, it doesn't matter. For me, the stealth tank is the boy.
It's badass.
Yeah, it really is. And there is nothing better. I used to like just building so many stealth tanks and just kind of surrounding a base. Just,
Yeah,
just surround a base and they don't even know what's coming and then just
yeah,
obliterate. Love, love, love the stealth tank. Um, let's talk about what I guess, even more so than the soundtrack, and even more so than the fact that it's one of the first real-time strategies, because I guess the crown does go to Doom 2 or Z, or Warcraft.
hmm
One of the things that really defines the Command and Conquer games for me is the FMVs.
yes,
Um, for me, it was one of the first games that I'd played where you had full FMV like that. I don't know about you.
yeah, yeah. I remember finding it quite peculiar at first and being like, wow.
And they're
Yeah,
talking at you as well.
yeah,
They because you're basically their commander, and then
hmm
they come on the video link and they're giving you the briefing to your face.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
glorious full screen. They had to go through some crazy post processing to try and get it to fit on the CDs, obviously.
Yeah,
Um, which interestingly, this is an interesting thing. I messaged you because I bought the remaster. I think I pre-ordered it, so like the day it came out, I was like, I've got it,
yeah,
and there were a number of reasons why I wanted it. One of the main reasons was that I knew that the soundtrack was remastered, and I really wanted the remastered soundtrack.
yeah.
They've also got bonus tracks where they've done the Tiberium Sons have done actual recordings, re-recordings
Oh
of
wow,
the songs, so that's awesome. There's like 250 songs on this remaster that you can listen to.
it's
Um,
incredible.
yeah, they've got the original versions, the remasters, and they've also got the Tiberium Sun covers. But they've also remastered all of the FMVs as well, and it's well where possible, and we'll get to that with the Red Alert remaster. But I messaged you the other week, and I was like, look, I own Command and Conquer and Red Alert big box. I still own the big boxes, and
Yeah,
I looked at the Command and Conquer big box, and I was like, right, it's 30 megabyte
hmm
install for Command and Conquer. Now, obviously, all of the FMVs are coming off CD, but even so, that's only a couple of 100 megabyte. The remasters, 4K remaster of Command and Conquer and Red Alert came in at a whopping 28 gigabyte.
what?
Yeah. That's almost like, I mean, it basically, yeah, it is crazy. It might as well have been basically 30 gig as
That's
opposed to
insane,
30
isn't
meg.
it?
We've gone from 30 meg to 30 gig. And I think that's because of the FMVs upscaled to 4K. Um, but they did some crazy, crazy magic to get all of those FMVs down onto two CDs. You had one CD for GDI, one CD for Nod.
Yeah,
Um, Amazing stuff. I have such fond memories of those briefings. They're kind of ingrained in my mind. Mark Shepard giving me my GDI briefings, Seth giving me the Nod briefings,
yeah,
and then obviously Kane.
yeah,
Let's get on to that. I mean, the how awesome is, because you don't really get this with the GDI campaign, which is why I think I've always preferred the Nod. Is
yeah,
Seth
yeah.
so good? Seth is so good. Do you not love Seth?
I do. I love Seth to pieces,
Just
and
how bitter he becomes. Basically,
yeah,
he's your commanding officer when you start the Nod campaign.
hmm
And spoilers, as you go through the game, he. By the way, I'm assuming people listening to this show generally have played these games. That's why you want to listen to a retrospective.
yeah,
He becomes jealous of your success because Kane starts taking an interest in you as a commander
yes,
because of your success on the battlefield. And you get to see through these wonderful FMV sequences Seth getting more and more bitter and more nasty towards you and sending you on like almost suicide missions by the end.
yeah. Is it the Pentagon?
Yeah,
That's
he's like,
the
that's the tipping point.
yeah, um, yeah. And there's that. Do we just go into it now?
Yeah, go for it. Let's
Yeah,
do it.
yeah. So obviously, as you've covered really well there, he really does not like you,
No.
and he really, I he's got it in for Kane as well.
Oh,
Um,
Yeah, for sure. I think he's just angry at Kane for loving you.
Yeah,
You know.
it's like that jealousy kicking in,
Yeah,
and unfortunately for him, it's his detriment. Where
really is.
he is about to send you on a suicide mission, as you've said, to the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Um, and there's that little moment where he says something along the lines of power switches hands very quickly
In the
within
Brotherhood.
in the
Yeah.
Brotherhood, yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's that moment of, did I hear something? And he sort of looks around the room.
Yeah, he looks nervously around, doesn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, and then he's just like, "Hey, let's like, I think you can do this. Take," and it's some like
yeah,
ridiculous, isn't it? Like just like take like 10 soldiers
yeah,
and just take over the Pentagon. It's
yeah.
something ridiculous, isn't it? It's
Just
like
go
a
for
full
it.
frontal assault on the Pentagon. I think that'll be
Yeah.
fine.
He's basically saying, wear this blindfold and these handcuffs and go and take on
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
that. And then obviously he was right to be sort of a little bit nervous looking around the room, because as he's giving you your briefing, what happens, Durs?
He gets shot through the back of the head
He does
by Kane,
indeed.
and there's blood.
There is.
Um, I was really shocked when this happened as a kid.
Yeah, yeah,
Like, I genuinely was like, I cannot believe I just saw someone get shot. I mean, obviously by then I'd seen like horror movies and all sorts. I as a kid, my parents didn't, they were like, watch what you want. You'll figure it out.
Oh,
Um,
lucky you, Durs.
lucky
Lucky
me,
you.
indeed. I know, lucky me. Um, and but that was really shocking to me to see that in a video game.
So
Was
this was one
super.
of the ones I got away with,
Yeah.
because
Hope your
obviously,
parents didn't walk in at that moment.
I was quite censored, wasn't I? So, being able to, this game to them was just it's just a top-down sort of strategy type thing. Anything they saw me playing of it was basically just that. And then that happened, and I said nothing because I needed to keep going. So I was just like, nope, not going to mention it. But yeah,
Probably my most
shocked the shit out of me.
it's probably my most replayed FMV
Yeah,
from Command and Conquer. Probably
yeah.
everyone's, right? From the
I,
first
th-
Command and Conquer
I think
game.
the thing with it as well, where Kane sort of sits down, sort of pushes Seth out of the way, sits down, and you hear
Mm.
the sound of Seth hit the floor.
Yeah.
um, and then
And
Kane
then he
repeats,
pushes him out of the way, right?
yeah,
He just
and he repeats the line about changing hands very quickly and stuff. It's just like, oh my God, Kane, you are
yeah.
such a badass.
The dude.
You are
Um
amazing.
Now I forget. Oh, I'm ashamed to say I've forgotten the actor's name who plays Kane. Um, he was
It's
he's a voice.
Joseph
That's
Kugan, is it?
Joseph, yes, and he was a vocal coach, I think.
Hmm.
And an act. I think he was like just there to kind of direct the videos and help with people's speech and things like that. And then I guess he was just there to direct, and then
Hmm.
eventually they were just like, I think you could probably play Kane.
Yeah,
And now he's synonymous with Kane.
yeah, absolutely.
And he held that role even when, because as we go through this, we get some money chucked into these games and we get some real top tier actors
Yeah.
that join the cast.
Oh yeah,
But Kane is always played by Joseph, always.
yeah.
And I love that because he is Kane and he is amazing in the role. I absolutely Kane hands down is my favorite character.
Yeah.
For sure.
He's done a lot of voice acting and other things. Like he was in the
Yeah.
he was in like Dune 2000, and he was in the Blade Runner game.
Yeah. The Blade
Yeah,
Runner game. When we do point and click,
yeah.
we will talk at length. Another great Westwood game, the Blade Runner
Yes.
game.
Yeah.
Actually been released on GOG.com. If you want
Oh,
to get
nice.
it will now
Nice.
play. It's almost impossible to get that thing running. You can now do it on GOG.com. And I
Amazing.
highly recommend that, but we won't get sidetracked. It's so easy to get sidetracked when we're talking about games.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, he is amazing.
Yes.
I love his performance as Kane throughout the series. Even when the series goes downhill, he is still tremendous.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt. I think he gets better with the series, to be honest. I right. I won't mention it yet, but there's a certain point where you sort of come across Kane where I'm like, I had my sort of fanfare moment.
Okay.
We'll come to that when we get to
Okay.
wherever that is
We'll get to that later
in
as we go
whatever
through time.
timeline that's in.
Um, so the only other comment I've got to make on the original Command and Conquer,
Hmm.
um, which at the time you didn't think about it, right?
Hmm.
But it must have been about a year, maybe longer ago. I had my friend over, and we've been talking for ages. We were like, do you know what? We should do an old school LAN party. Like in the same house, not like no multiplayer over. We want to do it over LAN. We want to do like an in the same house playing a game, right? We
Yeah.
talked about it for ages, and we were like, "What should we play?" He was like, "What should we play?" And I was like, "Well, let's play. Let's not. I don't want to play modern games. I want to play the games that we would have played, as kids over LAN." So I was
Hmm.
like, "Let's play Doom. Let's play Quake. Let's play Command and Conquer." And Total Annihilation. I think
Yeah.
we had a bunch of them. We were playing original Quake and Doom, Command and Conquer, and Total Annihilation. We put Command and Conquer in, set it up over LAN, and we started playing. And I had never realized as a kid, because I didn't really have the internet until quite late
Yeah.
in the 90s. So I never really played Command and Conquer much multiplayer to know. It's only over friends' houses and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They have the smallest multiplayer maps ever created, like ever. You're literally building your base right next to the other person's base. There's nowhere to go. The maps for the original Command and Conquer are the smallest maps.
Yeah.
We tried like pretty much all of them. We were like, there must be a bigger map than this. We must be doing this wrong. No, you've got no space to move, and you don't really notice it in the single player campaign because it just
No.
kind of works with single player. But multiplayer, oh my god, you're building on top of each other. It's ridiculous. Like there was one point we were just building base and we were like, right, let's just, because I always like to do with multiplayer strategy games. I
Hmm.
don't like that nonsense. Like, let's just build as quick as possible and rush each other's bases. That just bores me.
Yeah.
So I always say to friends, and I was always thankful with like Total Annihilation and later games like that, where you could set a like ceasefire time. You have a time of
Yeah.
peace, like 10 minutes or 20 minutes peace. And then once you've built up everything, then you have the battle. I always find that way more interesting. So I was saying to my friend, I was like, let's just build our bases for like 5 minutes. And once we're set up, then we'll go at it because it'll be way more interesting. And it
Yeah.
literally, the maps were so small that our turrets and our defenses were attacking each other's defenses because they were just like right on top of each other. It was ridiculous. It's ridiculous, but never noticed until like later life. But that's my last comment on the original Command and Conquer. The only thing I will briefly touch on. Do you have any other comments on the original Command and Conquer? Any more thoughts? Any more memories?
Um, as I say, that is pretty much where I was at with it. Yeah.
Nice.
What I would say, that I know there is an online community still for Command and Conquer, which is quite nice. There's like almost like a coded multiplayer that you can sort of drop into.
There is.
Again,
There's a
the
great one for Red Alert as well. They've done a great job with Red Alert.
really, I
Yeah, the
haven't seen
online
that one yet.
community. There's a Red Alert like a well, I don't know how legit it is, but you could download Red Alert and play it online.
Ah, cool.
In like high in whatever resolution you want to play it in. Obviously now doesn't really matter because we got the remaster, but it was
Yeah.
great for a long time.
Yeah, no, yeah, I did sort of jump in and have a couple of games online.
Yeah,
It was based in the original sort of Tiberium series, so all of the tech from it and all those kinds of things are from Tiberium.
yeah,
Yeah, it was good. It's definitely like if you literally were to just Google Command and Conquer online, you'd be able to find sort of multiple ways of playing, which is quite good.
for sure, for sure.
It means that the fan base is still very, very strong, which is good for a series that really deserves the longevity.
It really does.
Hmm.
I will briefly touch on the remaster before
Yeah,
we move on.
of course.
It might be my favorite remaster of all time.
Lovely. That's good
It
to know.
honestly, as a kid growing up, and this game really, it's Doom, right?
Yeah,
Doom defined FPS for me.
yeah,
Defined FPS. It was like everything to me. growing up. Doom was like, oh my God, this has changed my life in gaming. You know, I've gone from like the Commodore 64 and the NES to like Doom. Like,
Yeah.
wow. You know, or I've gone from Commander Keen to Doom, and I'm like, what has happened? This is something else, right? By the way, I did a live stream. It's still on Facebook. If anyone can tell me, I haven't played the original Doom for a long time. I've always played Doom 2. I was live streaming Doom 1 just to kind of test whether live streaming really was going to work for me. I was playing Brutal Doom, and I got to the end of episode 1, and I'm pretty sure that the game was kind of bugged because it didn't. I'm pretty sure there was a trigger that should have happened that didn't. But let me know, guys, if you watch that live stream. Did I miss something? Because I was walking around for a while, and in the end, I was like, well, I killed both of the Hell Knights. I guess I've completed the episode 1 anyway. I'll just move on. Yeah, I think I missed that. But Doom was like everything, right? For me, it was like the world has changed. The same with Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer was like, oh my God, what is this? Like, I've never played anything like this before. This is so new to me, and so different.
It was the thing that I went into school and I talked about.
Oh, me and my friends in school did nothing but talk about Command and Conquer. There
Yeah.
was like a whole summer where I did nothing. You know, it was sunny outside. Kids were playing. Not this kid. This kid was just playing Command and Conquer.
Yeah, there's a kid I was in school with, weirdly enough, called Jason as well. The Jason I was in school with, he now works for, you know, the what they call.
He now works for Nod.
No, he now works for, you know, the people who do the special effects for Disney and Star Wars and all that kind of stuff.
Oh yeah.
I can't remember if it was something Light and Magic.
Yeah, Industrial Light and Magic used to be George Lucas's company.
He works for them now.
Wow, that's cool.
He was actually, if you look at The Last Jedi and...
Well, mate, I don't mean to boast,
no,
but I work for Bristol City Council, so...
Yeah, well, you know. But, yeah, so if you look at the credits, and this is a shout out to him because I know, again, he's a big Command and Conquer fan. Me and him in school used to like be like, how far have you got? How have you got? Are you know what I mean? Like, how are you getting on? And we used to like sort of hang out and sort of like watch each other play and stuff.
As an aside, I also do a movie podcast. If you ever want to come on and talk about working for Industrial Light and Magic, that would be awesome. Let me know.
I could probably arrange that. It may, like, because he lives in Canada, so it may be a bit of a time.
Very cool.
You might have to do it at like early hours of the morning or something like that.
It's very cool though.
But yeah, he's actually credited on the last 2 Star Wars titles.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so awesome.
I remember being in the cinema watching Last Jedi, and I sat for the credits, and I saw his name come up, and the pride, man.
Oh, it's so cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. But anyway, I was just going to say, yeah, Jason, I know you're a fan of Command and Conquer. You're probably going to listen into this one. If you ever want to do that with Durs, talk about, you know, what you're doing in movies and things like that, then you're more than welcome. Come on, dude.
Very cool. But yeah, this remaster, you know, being a game that was so influential to me, this remaster brings a tear to my eye. It's so nice. They have taken they've done nothing to really change the game, which is what I really like about it. It is the original game through and through. They've changed the sidebar. That's the only thing they've really done.
Okay.
And no one's going to complain. They've improved the sidebar, because the sidebar used to just be where you select your units and buildings to build. You used to scroll down, and it was just a big long list of 2. There was like 2 columns, and it just went down and down and down. That was all your units, buildings, vehicles, everything. It was all just in one long line going down. They've separated it like they did with later Command and Conquer games now. There's 3 columns, and it's separated into tabs. So you've got units, buildings, and vehicles as separate things. And you can also queue units now, which you couldn't do in the original Command and Conquer. If you were building soldiers, you had to build them one at a time. Yeah. You can queue them now. They've done brand new graphics for every unit, vehicle, building, everything in the game. It looks stunning. Lovely. They've upscaled the FMVs as much as they can. Command and Conquer in particular looks fantastic for the most part. They've done a great job upscaling the FMVs. The greatest thing for me, the most fun, is that at any point in the game, if you press the space bar, it will go back to the original graphics.
Oh wow.
And if you press the spacebar again, it will go back to the new graphics. So on the fly, you can just switch between it. I was live streaming yesterday. I actually deleted the live stream because I realized the audio was all over the place. My audio levels weren't loud enough so my commentary just sounded like I was mumbling beneath the sound of, the awesome music of Frank Klepacki. But I was just spent ages just pressing the space bar while I'm playing just to see like original graphics, new graphics. So cool to do that on the fly. I cannot give enough credit to this remaster, and it was done by the original guys who worked at Westwood.
That's amazing.
Which I think is cool because EA get a lot of shit, quite rightly.
Mm-hmm.
Quite rightly. But you've got to give them credit for this. They contacted the original creators who have their own studio. I'm ashamed to say I've forgotten the name of the studio, but they contacted them and got them to make this remaster. It's a remaster that includes Command & Conquer and Red Alert, but we'll talk about that when we get to Red Alert.
Yeah. So, if I can just ask about the remaster real quick as well.
Mm.
So, just to be 100%, the FMVs are the original FMVs.
Yes.
So there's
original FMVs. They've not re-recorded anything. They've not got new actors in or done anything. It's the original FMVs. What they've done is they've taken where they can. They've taken the original FMVs and upscaled them to 4K. So it doesn't all look great, and obviously, it's not going to be 4K perfect. But it's the best they could do. Red Alert really suffers. Unfortunately, from what I gather, they lost the original video for Red Alert. So all they could do was upscale what they had from in the game. So it's the Red Alert ones don't look great at all. But they did what they could, But the Command & Conquer ones look fantastic.
Amazing.
Yeah, they've not recast, because that was my worry as well. I was like, don't you dare recast.
Yeah, so I get...
Although Jason, the guy who plays Kane, has not aged.
Really?
No, he looks the same. I think he might actually be immortal.
Yeah, maybe he's just Kane playing.
Maybe he is.
Yeah, playing... what I was going to say as well is I get paid in 4 days and will be buying the remaster. So
let me know what you think. It's amazing, man. And it's only like 20 quid or something. It's well worth it for the memories. So after Command & Conquer, we got a shite game called Soul Survivor. And set in the Command & Conquer universe. And basically you play as a single unit. It's like an arena type battle. I guess it's it's an early is it like Dota and stuff like that? It's kind of along those lines, but it didn't really work. It was like it wasn't very good, so we'll skip that. So the canonically GDI triumph, and they strike the Temple of Nod with an ion cannon.
They do,
and supposedly kill Kane.
Mm-hmm.
He's a dead boy.
He's supposedly a dead boy, yeah. Allegedly.
So do you want to continue with the timeline, or shall I continue with the timeline? It's entirely up to you.
So from here, timeline-wise, we go to Tiberian Sun next, is that right?
Oh, yes.
Yes. So Tiberian Sun takes place a few decades later.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah. So it's basically this is where you hit more of a what am I trying to say? It's more of a sort of science fiction-y type vibe, then, isn't it? It kind of.
It's yes. What strikes me with Tiberium Sun is it's so much darker.
Mm-hmm.
It's still melodramatic and all of that, but the world is horrendous.
Yeah.
So Tiberium, that was this wonderful source of fuel, but very dangerous to people, is starting to spread, and it's starting to ruin the world.
Yeah, it's like terraforming, isn't it?
Yeah, it's to me, it's got very clear. Maybe not in the first game, but as we continue through this series, it's got it's very much the red weed.
Yeah.
And in fact, at one point, it pretty much is the red weed. When we get to Command & Conquer 3, it's clearly the red weed from, War of the Worlds. This game, for me, was very, very dark. So, excuse me, by the 21st century, GDI is focused on researching the means to combat Tiberium spread.
Yes.
and it's making use of an orbital station called the Philadelphia to command its forces. We will come back to the Philadelphia later. It's very important.
Yes.
Meanwhile, Nod has splintered after the presumed death of Kane, our boy Kane. Both factions are working to develop new technology to sort of equal each other's armies. This includes now, because we're in the future, this includes walkers. I don't know why I sung that. This includes walkers, cyborgs, and advanced defensive measures and armored infantry. Also, if things weren't shite enough, Daz, Tiberium is starting to create mutants.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is indeed.
There's mutant boys running around everywhere now.
Yeah. So check this out, right? Tiberium Sun is the one command and conquer. Sorry, Tiberian Sun, I should say. Tiberium being the substance and Tiberian being of Tiberium. Is one of the. I still own a physical copy. Basically.
So do I. I mean, that doesn't surprise you, but yes.
It's currently in my mum's loft in Wales.
Good. Have you still got the box?
I have, yeah, but I know full well that is still there and still intact. So I will be getting that when lockdown's over.
For sure. For sure. Very easy to get running on modern systems, I will say. I have it up and running on this PC right now.
Nice.
I'm not playing it right now. I'm focused on this podcast. I'll let you know, 100% laser focused. Both of my screens are just full of Command and Conquer information. But yeah, I do have it installed. Oh man, this game was delayed. And as a kid in the late 90s, just so eager, buying PC Gamer mags and just like poring over every image of this game and just being, it looks so good. And it got delayed, and it was heartbreaking because I was so obsessed with Command and Conquer, especially the Tiberium universe. I just wanted this game so bad.
Yeah.
And when it came out, I just instant purchase.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Have money put aside for this, just for this game. Don't know when it's coming out, but I'm not spending that money. It's ready.
So it actually came out in August 1999, making me 14-year-old Daz. I was 14-year-old Daz, and you must have been 15-year-old Durs. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah.
So, as a 14-year-old virgin, as I should have been,
as I would hope you would be, yes.
Yeah. I spent many an hour on my weekends and evenings, sat on my PC, playing this game. Yeah.
For sure. I mean, this was, for its time, it's not the best looking game for its time. There were better looking strategy games by this point. But in terms of the Command and Conquer universe, this was a huge step forward in graphics. Huge.
Oh yeah.
And to this day, as I said, it still runs in modern resolutions and looks terrific. This was a massive graphical step for the Command and Conquer universe. We'd had Red Alert, and we'll get to that later. But a massive step forward. There were new things. The strategy was so much more deep in this one.
Yeah.
Kid gloves are off now. We're starting into full strategy. You can do terrain damage. You can damage the terrain so that it falls onto units and cause landslides and things like that. There was better pathfinding in this game. The pathfinding was so much better. I was actually playing the remaster yesterday of Command and Conquer and live streaming, and I said at the time, even after it's clear that Tiberium is dangerous, those fuckers, the units will just run across it. If you don't purposely tell them not to go that way, they will just walk straight through. The pathfinding was so much better in this game, in Tiberium Sun. So much better. The UI was better. You could queue units now, which you couldn't do originally. I don't think you could do originally. Don't remember. No, you couldn't. You couldn't queue units in Command and Conquer. For me, it felt like the factions became truly different here.
Yes.
In that both sides have very unique units. They're very different. You kind of had with Command and Conquer 1 similar units on both sides. There were slight differences, but they were kind of similar. This is the start of of the factions becoming very different.
Yeah.
Each faction has a very unique feel and a very unique play style, much more so than the first one.
Yeah, no, I agree. I remember early memories of playing it, being like, wow, this is everything I ever wanted to happen moving forward. And I mean, I got to be honest, I hated Slavic
Right?
because he wasn't Kane.
Daz,
Hmm.
guess what?
But
Kane's not dead.
I know, mate. I know.
He's back. He's
See
got
what
a
I did
robot
there?
eye, but he's back.
He is back, mate. Yeah. This is the thing as well, right? Because you got to think around
Did
this
you think he
time
was dead when you started playing?
when I first started playing and we had Slavic, I was like, oh my god, Kane is dead.
This is crap.
Yeah, this is. Am I going to enjoy it? Well, I'll play it because it's beautiful.
I
You know what I
actually
mean?
played the. I actually this one, Command and Conquer. I played Nod first. This one I played GDI first because I loved Michael Biehn. I thought he was a great actor, and I was like, "Oh,
See,
Michael Bihn's in this. I'm going to play through the GDI campaign first."
I didn't. I played Nod first, looking for Kane.
You're a loyal
I
man.
am so loyal, and I love Michael Biehn as well because, well, let's be honest, Terminator,
Yeah,
Aliens.
yeah, Aliens. I mean, he was the man.
Hmm.
80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
Michael Biehn was the man.
Oh yeah.
Uh,
You wanted that guy in your movie,
yeah.
basically back then.
Navy
I
SEALs with Charlie Sheen.
Yes, mate. Yeah, what a movie! What a movie! Charlie Sheen before the all of the winning.
Before the fall.
But
Before the
yeah,
Tiger Blood, we had
uh,
Navy SEALs.
we did.
The cast, man. James Earl
Yes,
Jones.
exactly. Like,
We've got like actual grade A actors here
mhm.
in this now.
Yes, absolutely. And who was his? The Red Alert series had a very similar thing as well, where they had some really good actors
Oh, they did. Yeah,
make
there were.
appearances as well. But we'll get to them. But yeah, I mean, for now, like James Earl Jones as James Solomon.
Mm,
And obviously you got Michael Biehn, you got the Kane's return.
yeah.
So obviously you've got that going for you as well. There
Michael
is
Biehn, by the
so
way, has the most 90s haircut in this game. It's the
yeah,
most.
yeah,
It's like early Friends haircut.
hmm, yeah, but it's beautiful.
It's
I
beautiful.
mean,
Yeah.
looking back, I just want to play Tiberian Sun now.
Do it, do it, do it. After this lockdown's over, go get that copy.
Yeah,
Play.
man. Yeah. But you've got some interesting things that appear in Tiberian Sun as well. For example, Cabal.
Yes. So
Um,
Cabal is it's basically the voice of the UI while you're playing through the Nod campaign.
yes.
He is that voice. He's an artificial intelligence, and he becomes very important to the story as we go forward.
Does indeed. And obviously, like you've got the Black Hand,
Yes.
which is kind of a faction of Nod,
Yeah.
which is where Slavic comes into it, really, isn't it? Slavic is like kind of part of the Black Hand, if I remember rightly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and there's Hassan, who's, if I remember, is it Hassan is like kind of the double agent,
Yes,
like
I
a
believe
spy
so.
type character?
Yes. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Again, it's a bit of a blur. I remember though that like I was just
Oh
waiting for
no.
Kane.
Sorry, I feel like we keep going back to the original Command and Conquer. Can I
That's
just
all right.
briefly go back one moment just to
Yeah.
say that Command and Conquer has the most badass commando ever. Let's move forward.
Okay. Cool.
Time to rock and roll.
I like it. But yeah. So let's talk about Kane's return.
Okay, so Kane is not dead, guys. He's
Mhm.
he's still around. He's Kane.
I probably spoiled that when we were opening the
You
segment.
did, but that's fine.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. Kane's still alive. He is back, and I couldn't have been happier. This game changes things up a little. You've moved from the traditional, and it returns to this. This is the only game in the series that I can think of that does this. We've gone from being briefed direct to your face first person to just an acted out campaign, basically. It's kind of like a movie. You could almost watch Tiberium Sun like a movie if you put the FMVs together. So yeah, it turns out that Kane is not dead. He's wearing like a Phantom of the Opera style or Kano robot eye.
I was just about to make
that. His face.
Just about to make that link to Kano there.
Nice.
Yeah, because Kano from Mortal Kombat obviously famously has that metal plate red eye.
Yeah.
And Kane does resemble that a lot when it comes to this game. Yeah.
Yeah. So he survived the ion cannon strike against the Temple of Nod.
Unfortunately, his face didn't survive as much as the rest of him.
Well, yeah, not yeah. He finds a way around it.
Yeah, he's now obviously got his little half mask, but also you can see a lot of the damage sort of coming out from it, where his skin is all sort of blistered and very trypophobic.
Yes.
Yeah.
I loved this game. I'm guessing you did too.
Oh yeah.
Much darker tone in this one. Like I said, the Tiberium is taking over now. We've got serious issues, and that is also reflected in the amazing soundtrack once again by Frank Klepacki. The music, much like the universe, has its own identity in this game. It very much fits the tone of this darker universe. But it's, again, tremendous soundtrack. Amazing. It's a darker soundtrack, but it's an amazing soundtrack. Love it. Love it.
Yeah. It's sick.
So, we have the end of Tiberium Sun. Where Cabal goes rogue.
Yeah.
The AI goes rogue after Kane is defeated again by GDI's forces, with Michael Biehn taking him down. Cabal, the AI for Nod, goes rogue, and in Firestorm, Nod and GDI both have to work together to take it down.
What are the odds?
What are the odds that would happen? An AI going rogue, that's unheard of in media.
Especially in a Michael Biehn.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, he should have known better.
Yeah, I know, right?
He should have immediately been like, we need to take this down.
Yeah. I mean, the guy fought the war on the machines. Like it's...
He did. Yeah, he did. So, I suppose we should probably talk about the units. We're jumping all over the place, but the units, as I said, we've moved forward. We've got like mechs and stuff now. The mammoth tank, it's not even a mammoth. It's not even a tank anymore. It's now a walker. It's a giant walker that can take like ludicrous amounts of punishment. I think you can only build one at a time, if I remember rightly. But yeah, it's like a super weapon. But yeah, and you've got those bloody annoying burrowing vehicles. Nod's got those really annoying digging vehicles. So if you built all your base defenses, they just dig under them and come up in the middle of your base and fuck you up.
Yeah. So I've got a theory.
Go on.
Obviously, with the walkers, I think that having James Earl Jones in your credits in a war type game, you need to have something that resembles in some way an AT-AT.
Fair. Yeah. And they do that. I mean, that is basically what it is. If you look at a Mammoth Mark 2 or 3, is it 2 or 3? I think it's 2. They are basically Imperial Walkers, but better armed.
Yeah, and it's a nice little parallel there. So you've got obviously, in essence, the voice of Darth Vader leading GDI.
Absolutely.
Without the breathiness.
Without the breathiness, yeah, he's cured of his asthma.
Yeah, actually,
turning to the light side.
Did everybody who starred in this game at some point star in a movie with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Yes, apart from probably the nod actors, yeah. Certainly the main two.
Yeah,
absolutely. We had Conan the Barbarian, and we obviously had the Terminator.
Yeah. So sorry, just a little.
Yeah, no. That's an interesting point.
Yeah.
So we at the end of Firestorm, the Firestorm campaign, GDI and Nod team up to take down Cabal. We get that bizarre ending.
Hmm.
Did you play Firestorm?
No, not that. I don't think
Oh,
I did
okay. So
actually.
the Firestorm ends, if I remember rightly, with this really weird um, cutscene where
Hmm.
Cabal has been taken down, and Cabal's kind of talking, and then it's in like a bunker, and there's loads of clones of Kane, and then Cabal and Kane's voice kind of merge. It's really weird.
Right.
It's a really weird
Okay.
cutscene, and I don't know that they ever really came back to it from memory. They kind of just, the Cabal and Kane have somehow merged at this point. Um, it's a strange thing.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, so that was Command and Conquer Tiberium Sun and Firestorm.
Hmm.
Probably for me the height of the series, really. If I put nostalgia aside,
Yeah.
because the first one for me will win because of nostalgia. If I put nostalgia aside, in terms of the Tiberium universe, 2 is the high point.
Hmm.
Um,
I
by
I
the t-
I I'd agree. I think when we come to Red Alert, there's a lot of
oh, Red Alert's
positives.
different. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a
Yeah.
lot of positives, but I think for me, this is where my love for the game brewed
Yeah.
from. You know what I mean? And granted, I didn't play every title.
Mm,
I haven't really played much of the later titles, but early day memories.
yeah.
It's the Tiberium series. Tiberian Sun being,
Oh, Sun is amazing.
yeah,
Um, we keep going back to the original Command and Conquer.
it's where it all started.
Let's go back to the original Command and Conquer. Command and Conquer Renegade.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Renegade takes place during the final days of the First Tiberium War, depicted in Command and Conquer. GDI's top 3 Tiberium research specialists have been abducted by the evil Brotherhood of Nod, and the player assumes the role of that badass Commando Captain Nick Havoc Parker,
Yes.
who is assigned to rescue the experts. He conducts missions which take him all over the world, different countries, climates, all of that stuff, indoor and outdoor. And basically, he greatly affects the outcome of the end of the campaign in the original Command and Conquer. This game is very flawed, but it's
Hmm.
also very amazing because for the first time you get to be in the Command and Conquer universe in first person. You're running
Yeah,
around and
yeah.
you get to see all of the base and all the bases, all the units. You get to use the units all in first person and third person. It's
Hmm.
great. It was so much fun. The story is bollocks, but it was just so great to be able to do first person and play. Just see the world in first person. And also, this is like so ahead of its time, this game. For
Yeah.
as flawed as it was, in multiplayer, you have base building, unit building, vehicles, first person multiplayer. It's basically Battlefront.
Hmm.
Or sorry, yeah. It's amazing. Amazing.
So
Battlefield.
good.
That was the word I was looking for. Battlefield.
Battlefield, yeah.
It's basically the prototype Battlefield.
Yeah.
Um, Incredible. I
So that was
loved it.
the Command and Conquer mode type
Yes.
thing, wasn't it? Where,
Yeah.
yeah. So it
Um,
was back to GDI Nod.
yeah. And you're on this mission to take down Kane or get these specialists.
Mm-hmm.
Great fun. Did you ever play Renegade?
This is one that I've watched a little of
Hmm.
because I didn't actually play
It's
it.
it's it's not aged well,
Hmm.
to be honest, as most FPSs from that kind of time haven't aged well.
Yeah.
It was just very fun to see everything in 3D, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good. So anyway, let's continue on and Command and Conquer 3, the third Tiberium War. Command and Conquer
Tiberium.
3 is called Tiberium Wars.
Yes.
Um, EA took over during Command and Conquer Tiberium Sun. They had nothing really to do with it, but they were there at the end, and it was the first EA game. EA have fully took over here, and we have Tiberium Wars. This game, it takes place in 2047 when Kane having been presumed dead, Daz.
He's not dead.
He's not dead, mate. He's still
Yes.
around.
I got one
Um,
right.
Having presumed to be dead during the Second Tiberium War, he returns and leads Nod into attacking the Blue Zones after
Mm,
bringing down GDI's Philadelphia. The space
yeah.
station is taken down, and presumably James Earl Jones killed,
Dum dum dum.
dead. It's all come down. The Philadelphia's come down. And the Third Tiberium War is against us. Now, I said Blue Zone. What the hell does that mean, Daz?
What does blue zone mean, Durs?
The world is screwed because of Tiberium.
Mm-hmm.
Tiberium has taken over the world. And effectively, you have now different zones.
Yes.
You have red zones, which are full of Tiberium, completely 100% uninhabitable. You have the yellow zones, which are now
Mm-hmm.
wastelands. They're fraught with danger, Tiberium danger, and this is where the most of the battles are fought between GGI and Nod.
Yes.
It's within the yellow zones. Then you've got the blue zones, which are the clean zones, no Tiberium, and this is where GDI currently exist. Basically, they've kind of taken over the blue zones.
Mm-hmm.
And this is where, for me, GDI started. You could kind of see them as almost bad guys. They're starting to, they're not perfect themselves in what they've become now. They're monopolizing the blue zones. And, you've got like almost a class war now where you
Mm-hmm.
have people in the blue zones versus people struggling in the yellow zones.
Yes. If I can just point out, a lot of what make GDI seem a little bit that way as well, turning a little bit bad over time,
Yeah.
is the introduction of Michael Ironside as General Granger.
Michael Ironside as General Granger, and also motherfucking Lando.
Yeah, Billy D. Williams.
Billy D is he is so
Mm-hmm.
good in this.
Yeah,
He is the smarmiest. Why, I mean, if you thought Lando was smarmy
yeah,
and cocky and arrogant, he has got nothing
yeah.
on this guy. I mean, I forget the name of the guy he plays, but oh my god.
Redmond Boyle.
Yeah,
Redmond
Redmond
Boyle, yeah.
Boyle. He
Yeah.
is such a sleazy asshole.
So I'm just going to do this again real quick, Durs.
Go for it.
So Michael Ironside,
Yeah, love
he
him.
he played he's a great villain, isn't he?
He's terrific.
And he's a great villain in Total Recall, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Yes, yes.
And Billy D. Williams as Lando
Mm,
in Star Wars. Who
yeah.
who who else is in Star Wars from this series? Who's the voice of Darth Vader again? Many
Oh,
links.
dude,
Many links.
I thought you were about to tell me that Arnold Schwarzenegger was in Star Wars. I was about to be like, wow, when did that happen?
No.
Um, so yeah. Oh my goodness, the cast continues to shine. We have
Yeah.
Michael Ironside and Billy D. motherfucking Williams.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll tell you.
Let's just call this one Command and Calrissian, yeah?
Yes, Command and Calrissian. I'm down with that. Command and Calrissian. So this game was running on a modified Generals engine. We'll get to Generals. It's running on the modified Generals engine. I thought it looked really good for the time that it came out. It still looked good. The Generals engine still held up.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it still holds up to this day, to be honest, for the most part. The particle effects in this one were particularly impressive. When you blow up a base or set off a nuke or anything like that, it looked really good.
Mm-hmm.
It was a real, for me, Red Alert's fine. I like Red Alert. Red Alert 2 is probably the best game they ever made in the Command and Conquer series in terms of gameplay.
Yeah.
But for me, it was always about the Tiberium universe, and I always just wanted to get back there. And it was such a welcome return to this universe for me. It was so nice to be back there. The charm of CNC is very much here. We're back to the first-person introductions, the first-person briefings.
Mm-hmm.
With Michael Ironside, Billy D, and obviously Jason. What's his name? Is Kane? I forget his last name. Sorry.
Jason Kuka.
Huka, thank you. Terrific cast, giving you the briefings again. I feel like I'm back in the Tiberium universe, and I couldn't have been happier.
Mm-hmm.
Except, yeah, I thought you were going to say something there.
All right. No, I was just going to say one thing that really excited me was actually seeing, having not known what was going on with Kane in the second game, Tiberian Sun, seeing Kane on the cover of Command and Conquer 3.
Oh yeah, they weren't messing around this time. They were like, nah, he's here.
And
I think he was in the trailer actually as well. They were like, yeah, Kane is back.
But yeah, it was. Oh, sorry.
They knew. They knew by this point that everyone loved Kane, and they were like, "Oh, Kane's back." You know, Albert Wesker is back. You know, he is back, and what a tremendous return it is. The cutscenes in this one are great. They're just as great as the other ones. Love the cutscenes. Love the campy, over the top story. It's tremendous. I fucking hate the soundtrack. It just falls so flat for me. No Frank Klepacki. Really hurts the sound of this game for me. The soundtrack is, and no offense to the musical talent, they did the best they could. It's fine, and it probably is fine. In any other situation, I wouldn't even mind. But for me, the Command and Conquer soundtrack is Frank Klepacki, and I found this soundtrack very generic, very dull, and I didn't really find any memorable tunes, which really hurt it for me.
Interestingly enough, Steve Jablonsky, who was one of the soundtrack composers on this game, he's better known for his work towards the Transformers film series.
Yeah.
He's worked with people like Hans Zimmer. He's done a lot of stuff with Michael Bay. This just wasn't for him.
He's great. He's great. It just for this, it just didn't really work. It feels very almost generic to me. This soundtrack, not great. I loved Tiberium Wars for what it was. I thought it was great. It was great to be back in that universe, and I think that's the main thing that holds this game together. Because this really, unfortunately, is where the Command and Conquer series starts to get stale. It starts to fall behind the times. By the time of Tiberium Wars, we've got Supreme Commander. We've got Company of Heroes. We've got strategy games that are doing far much more innovation. Command and Conquer has stopped innovating, and it's become a nostalgia trip. It stopped, But one thing that does excel in this one is the story. Because they made no twist of Kane being back. Kane's back. We know that. But Daz, what happens in this game? Is it just Nod and GDI fighting again?
Nah, mate. Of course it's not. What's been happening over the time of Tiberium being on Earth is that it's terraformed.
Yes.
It's obviously we've got the zone set up, so we know about the zones and stuff now.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they're called, Durs, but the
zones. They're different colors. Red.
No. The
dudes.
The alien
force. So the Tiberium. So basically the conflict starts again when the Philadelphia is taken down. Nod and GDI go at it again, and it triggers the third Tiberium War. But during the conflict, there is a massive liquid Tiberium explosion.
Yes.
Tiberium has been taking over the world. It's been terraforming the world, and now we find out why. Finally, after hinting during the last couple of games, I think even in Command and Conquer 1, there was downed UFOs in places. If you look on the map, I always thought they were UFOs anyway. They might not have been. But they're, and then obviously in the second one, they talk about aliens being a thing. And as I said, the red weed is basically, that's what Tiberium is. It's been taking over. It's been terraforming the Earth, ready for the Skrin to invade.
The Skrin, that's what it's called. Yeah.
And halfway through the campaign, whether you're Nod, whether you're GDI, this extraterrestrial force comes into the game.
Amazing.
And changes everything. It's no longer just Nod and GDI. Now we've got to deal with the Skrin, this greater threat.
Mm-hmm. Amazing, right?
I loved that twist.
Yeah.
And
One
the
of the
best, go on.
one of the things I was going to say is when I made that poster for
Yes,
the
yes,
original drop of this episode.
yeah.
I really wanted to put the Scrin logo into it, but I
Hmm.
didn't because I wanted to keep it in the dark a little bit.
Yeah, okay. We're it's a spoiler of like a decade ago or so.
Yeah.
Was it like 2005, six? I don't know. Um,
7.
7. There we go. Close enough. So a lot of this is memory, so bear with us. But yeah, so the screen, and the best thing is once you've completed the campaign, once you've completed both campaigns, you can play as the screen.
Yeah.
There's the Scrin campaign. And what I really like is that the Scrin do play very uniquely, very differently to the
Mhm.
other factions in this game.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love the purple as well. I know
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm literally just getting their logo up now to look at again
It's a
because
cool
it's
logo. It's a very cool logo. One thing that the Command and Conquer series, whether it's Generals, whether it's Red Alert, whether it's the Tiberium series, the logos are awesome.
yeah.
They're the most awesome logos, and as they evolve, they just get more and more awesome.
Yeah, it was one of those things where like Nod's scorpion tail logo had always been for me
Never
that
bested.
never, but
The
when
Scrin logo is a close second.
yeah, the screen it reminds me of like it's like a purple rib cage of
Yes,
sorts, isn't it?
a purple rib cage or a purple almost spider
Yeah.
or like
Actually, yeah.
something with pincers at the front. Yeah,
Yeah, no,
amazing.
it's really cool. Really, really cool.
Looks
Loved.
almost like the shadows from Babylon 5, if
Oh
you're a
yeah.
fucking nerd like me.
Tell you what,
Um,
mate, that's something I haven't watched for a good decade.
I watch it almost annually.
Do you?
Love me some Babylon 5.
We'll have to do a watch through or something, Diz.
Oh, for sure. Do
Yeah.
you know someone suggested to me that we do, now that the live streaming works,
Hmm.
that we should play some games together.
Yeah, that would be a
Yeah.
shout.
What actually, Daz, once you get the remaster, let's live stream.
Duals like multi-screen.
Yeah.
We'll
Or a single screen. Take your screen and I'll just voice over and we will face off.
yeah,
GGI versus Nod. Let's do it.
let's do it.
Um
That'd be
but
amazing.
But yeah, the screen kind of made this game because, like I said, this game is falling behind the times a little now. The
Hmm.
Command and Conquer series,
Yeah.
Supreme Commander. Did you play Supreme Commander?
I haven't.
Oh, it's so much more grand. You can zoom out to like these huge maps.
Yeah.
It takes what Total Annihilation did and just runs with it, and it's amazing. And yeah, Command and Conquer really felt like it was falling behind the times here,
Hmm.
unfortunately. But it's held together by the story, my love of the Tiberium universe, and the Scrin. I thought it was a really
Hmm.
interesting thing to bring them in finally.
Yeah, I think
Um,
you got to think this has been 12 years in the making
yes,
from
yeah,
the point of releasing Command and Conquer to getting to this point. We're 12 years in the making. We've had
yeah,
12 years of Kane.
yeah,
We've had, he's been the big bad, or
yes.
in my case, the hero. He's
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
anti-hero
yeah.
of the game. But bringing the screen in now, I think was a really bold but good move.
I agree
I think
100%.
it brings interest into the game that you are, like you said, is starting to you're starting to feel that it's dragging on a little bit.
Mm.
Bringing in the screen did kind of save that for me.
Yes, it breaks up that kind of almost, I don't want to say monotony because that's not fair, but
No,
that sameness of like, oh, it's GGI versus Nod again. That's what we're doing. And we love to do that, but it's nice to bring in that other element and really mix it up. And it also makes it feel like, and I'm sure this wasn't, but it's nice that it feels like now it was all one big storyline, and it feels like, oh, there was a reason the Tiberium, came
yeah,
and did all this. I don't know if that was Westwood's plan originally or not, but it was interesting that they
yeah.
expanded on that. I thought it worked
I,
really
I
well.
I find it really really cool that the way I look at it is Tiberium early on is a resource that it's a new resource that they use in
Yes.
warfare. It becomes dangerous. They
Hmm.
continue to use it. It's kind of like how nuclear power is dangerous close up, isn't it? Or
Yes.
um, and it gets to the point where this resource that they are basically fighting over for power
Hmm.
becomes what could ultimately be the destruction of the world.
Yes. Yes.
And that was the plan all along. The Scrin knew what they were doing, even though we
They
didn't.
absolutely did.
Yeah.
So during this battle, there are scrin thresholds, which are known as gateways. They're like
Yes.
enormous superstructures. They're constructed by the scrin in like the most Tiberium-rich locations on
Mhm.
Earth.
Yeah.
And all but one of those towers is destroyed by GDI. But at the end of the Third Tiberium War, Kane manages successfully to take and capture the remaining threshold,
Hmm.
and the Scrin are driven from Earth. So GDI successfully defend its territory. The blue zones are still GDI.
Hmm.
Kane has captured the remaining threshold, and the Scrin have been driven from Earth,
Yes.
thanks to the combined efforts of GDI and Nod.
Hmm.
So that was Command and Conquer 3. And I guess now we move on to Command and Conquer 4.
Tiberium Twilight.
Tiberium Twilight, indeed.
Ah,
Oh.
so it is 2062,
Mm-hmm.
15 years after we've left the Third Tiberium War
Yes, yes,
and the defeat of the Scrin.
absolutely.
So the world is fucked.
Yeah. Humanity is on the brink of extinction.
Yes. So we're looking at the whole planet being completely inhabitable within the next 5 to 6 years.
Yeah.
Humanity will no longer be a thing. And now we are at the real struggle where the Tiberium series has been leading us all along.
Yes. Supposedly.
Yeah. We'll take it as they meant this from day one. I think I can believe that they did. Just by introducing Tiberium as a power source.
I think it works fine. So,
Yeah.
With humanity on the brink of extinction, Kane presents an offer to the GDI Council.
Mm-hmm.
And for the second time in history, Nod and GDI form an alliance.
Mm-hmm.
Mm. This game sucks.
Yeah.
So basically, GDI and Nod are forming an alliance, but there is then what is called the incursion war between Nod separatists and GDI. Nod are not too happy with Kane teaming up with GDI, so some of them splinter off. And become the Nod separatists. So we have an incursion war between them and GDI. The world is now screwed. It's ruined, and there is no more base building, which for me is a carnal sin for Command and Conquer. Instead, we have these giant walkers, which I think, they work fine in the universe. And as it works from a narrative perspective, I don't mind. From a gameplay perspective, I hate these walkers. I hate them with a passion. You have these big walkers. You get 3 different types of walkers with different unique abilities. And you build vehicles and units from these walkers. So you basically have mobile bases. What they tried to do here, I think, is kind of follow in the footsteps of Company of Heroes and those squad-based games, where now you don't have loads and loads of units. You've just got a finite amount of units, and you need to deploy from your walkers. You can recall your walker and send down a new walker at any time if you want to change the way you're doing battle. But for me, it was absolutely clear from the very beginning that this is not a single-player game. There are 3 types of walkers. There are like 5-6 player maps minimum. This was designed for you and 2 other friends to go up against 3 enemies.
Yes, it's a 3-on-3 skirmish, basically.
It's a 3-on-3 skirmish game, and it may well work fine for that, but I never did. Did it. I was playing it single player, and I couldn't stand it.
I wasn't a fan at all myself. Like I wanted to like it. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Oh, I really wanted to like it. I really, really did. By this time, I forget when this game came out, but by this time, the General's engine is so old
Hmm.
and looks so dated. Similar problem with Red Alert 3, which we'll get to shortly.
Hmm.
Um, the graphics look terrible. So what they
Yeah.
did was they made everything look cartoony.
Hmm.
And that kind of worked all right with the Red Alert universe. Here, it's awful. It looks terrible.
Yeah.
It doesn't suit the Tiberium series at all.
No.
It makes everything look cartoonish and silly, which really contrasts uh, against the plot and the way the plot is handled.
Hmm.
Previous Command and Conquer games just had a real campiness. Even in their
Yeah.
darkest moments, they were camp, they were fun, and they get away with it. This
Yeah.
game takes itself so seriously. The cutscenes take themselves so seriously, and they're not written well enough to pull that off at all.
Yes.
It just doesn't work. It doesn't work. It almost immediately falls flat for me. The opening cinematic, I'm like, oh my God, they're trying to be really serious with this. And
Yeah.
it just doesn't work.
No.
Doesn't work. Um, I would
So
say,
one thing I think does work for this game,
yeah,
and I may be biased, and I'll explain why in a second,
no, go
but
for it.
it is soundtrack.
Oh, okay. I think it
Controver
works better than Tiberium Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Controversial,
Mm.
but I think it's because of Jason Graves. 100%. Jason Graves is,
He's much, much better suited to this,
yeah.
I
Um,
must say.
he's known, obviously he's known for his work on Tomb Raider games.
Yeah.
He did Until Dawn, which is a game I brought up in the horror podcast
Mm.
we did. Dead Space,
Yeah.
Far Cry. He's very well versed
Prolific.
In game soundtracks, and I think
Yeah.
that was a very
He's
important move. Was getting him on board.
for sure. For me, he's not Frank Klepacki, but he
No.
is very good, and I
Yeah.
do think that is one of the highlights of this game. Actually, you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Yeah.
How do you feel about the story of this one? You know, it's the end of Kane's story. How did you feel about the way Kane's story ends?
I thought that the concept for the story was great. A kind of like the world's about to end story where, I'm not too much a fan of Nod and GDI ever coming together.
No, not unless it's. I liked it the first time when it was like things are really desperate. We need to team up.
Yeah,
But
but
outside of that, no. After that, no.
yeah. So basically, the whole thing for this is it's a base called Threshold 19, isn't it? But it's kind of like the last remaining screen tower,
Yes.
and basically Kane is attempting to use it to leave Earth before it's too late.
Yeah.
I really don't mind that as a story.
Neither do I. I actually
Yeah.
don't mind the way that it ends with Kane.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
such a shame that the game sucks so much.
Hmm.
Because I'm okay with the story. If they'd done it super campy like the other ones, I've got no problem on paper with this story of Kane.
Hmm.
Fine with it.
Yeah.
It's the execution of the story that fails here, and it's the execution of the game.
Yeah. What do you think of Colonel Louise James?
Yeah,
Because there's
that's how I feel about him. Yeah. Again, I find it hard to get behind anyone in this game because it's taking itself so seriously.
yeah. Yeah, no, I'm with you.
It's just me. For me, I was literally just playing this game to see what happens to Kane.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
started playing it. I was like, this is awful, but I just want to get to the end so that I can see what happens to Kane.
Yeah, I'm with you.
That was it, really. To be honest, I just wanted to finish the story.
Yeah, it's one of those where it's a shame because at the end of the day,
I wish they could go back. I wish they'd go back and make a new Command and Conquer 4.
yes.
That's how I feel about it. If they could get just redo that story, I'd be really happy. And with a new game.
Yeah. One of the things I will say about Tiberian Twilight is I find that the GDI side of things, especially where you've got um, Colonel James
Yeah.
in her military sort of dress up, things
Yeah.
like that. You know, she's in a sort of John Cena look, I'll
She is.
call it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, I find it very 2000s Doctor Who looking,
Oh, yeah. You're right.
and
Yeah.
I love 2000s Doctor Who, but
Uh-huh.
that doesn't mean that Command and Conquer should look like it.
No, no, it kind of loses its identity, doesn't it?
Hmm. Yeah,
Somewhere along the lines that this universe has lost its identity. It's
yeah.
a real shame. Um, the only thing I will say in summation, this is the end of the Tiberium universe, is that, you know, while that ended badly, we have the remaster now, and the
Mhm.
Tiberium universe is great again. It's fun again, and let's
Yes.
hope that they continue the remasters.
Yeah, I'd like to see
Remaster,
it.
Tiberium Sun and Red Alert 2. And
Mhm.
then, maybe, just maybe there'll be enough interest that they'll be like, oh, let's just do the end justice again. I don't know. Maybe
Yeah,
we can hope. But yes, that was the Tiberium universe. Anything else to say, Daz?
I think that covers it.
I think that covers it. I've
Yeah,
only got one question for you,
what's that?
and I already know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyway. GDI or Nod?
Nod.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
100%
yeah.
Nod. Daz, let me take you back, all the way back in time to 1924.
Okay, let's go there. Let's take a little trip down memory lane, shall we?
Do you want to know what happens in 1984? Do you want to know what happens in 1984? I'm born. Do you want to know what happens in 1924?
I think I already do, but why don't you tell me anyway?
All right. Well, there's this guy
Hmm.
who, you might have heard of him. He's called Adolf Hitler.
All right, yeah, that guy. Yeah,
That guy, he's not nice. He's not a nice guy. Um, but don't worry about him. He's
yeah.
gone. He's
He doesn't
gone
matter.
because a time traveling Albert Einstein has gone back in time and murdered him
By shaking his hand.
by shaking his hand. We don't really know how that works, but he's gone. He's gone. Adolf Hitler is dead because Albert Einstein could not deal with World War II and the loss of life. He
Hmm.
created a time machine. He went back in time and he murdered Adolf Hitler before he ever came to power.
Yes.
This doesn't go the way that Einstein hoped.
No. Um, somebody
Because
takes
Stalin,
advantage.
yes, Stalin becomes the leader of the Soviet Union,
He does.
and without Nazi Germany, the Soviet Union grows under Stalin. It
Yes.
grows in power. And believing that the Soviet Union's birthright is to take over the world, Stalin orders the invasion of Western Europe,
He does
starting
indeed.
the Second World War with Soviets versus Allies.
Hmm. So we are no longer Nod versus GDI.
And we're no longer Allies versus Nazis. We're in an
Mm.
alternate timeline where the Soviet Union has started World War II.
Yes.
It's also an alternative timeline where, wonderfully, we get science fiction elements. We
Hmm.
get the myths that existed in World War II.
Yes.
We get the conspiracy theories and the tech theory of World War II. Things like Tesla coils, the Iron Curtain, the chronosphere. All of
Yeah.
these wonderful new devices are input into World War II. So we get an alternate World War II that has some sci-fi elements.
We do indeed. And it's wonderful.
It's really good. So this started as an expansion pack to Command and Conquer. Originally, it was just going to be an
Mhm.
expansion pack and a bit of fun, like the Covert Ops was, I suppose. They decided, oh, let's just set it somewhere else, and we'll just have this, spin-off expansion pack, a one-off called Red Alert.
Mhm.
It became its own game, Daz.
It did,
It
and
became its own game.
it became huge.
Yes, it
Um,
became massive. In
Command
many
and,
ways, it improves on Command and Conquer
yeah,
from a gameplay perspective.
Command and Conquer Red Alert is 1 year younger than Command and Conquer.
Yes.
95 to 96.
Mm-hmm.
What they did within that time is incredible.
Yes, absolutely.
The way the combat is
Mm.
is light years ahead. and more to what you expect going forward in the Umbrella series of Command and Conquer.
Yeah, in Command and Conquer overall.
Yeah.
There's no Tiberium because it's
There
not
isn't.
1994. There's no Tiberium, or 93, whenever it was. Already forgotten. Instead of that, we have ore.
We do.
And it's not harmful to units, so the gameplay is changed.
Yes.
Ore doesn't hurt anyone, and ore is your source of currency, of power, to power your units. We use ore instead of Tiberium in this universe. We finally get ships and boats. We had the gunboats and stuff, in Command and Conquer. It was just a stat, it just went up and down the river and you couldn't control it. We get full control over boats and ships and more planes. Basically, it ups the ante on everything else. We had a lot of ground units. In this one, we got a lot of ground units. We've also got a lot of air units, and we've got a lot of naval units. And I loved the naval units in this game.
Yeah, it definitely puts a new element of threat to any coastal maps that you're fighting on.
I hated not playing on coastal maps because I loved, for me, there are mammoth tanks in Red Alert, but for me, those battleships were like my mammoth tank for me in this game. I loved those. The range on those cannons was amazing. They just start shooting off screen.
Yeah.
They just shoot into the fog of war. They just shoot,
So Allied or Soviet, Durs? Where did you start?
Where did I start? I started with Soviet, actually playing. I played through the Soviet campaign first.
Yeah, same.
What about you? Yeah, same. Okay, cool.
Do you know what it is, right? Red's my favorite color.
Red is my favorite color as well, actually. Well, no, it's actually purple is my favorite color. Scrin, man.
Scrin, you're a Scrin man, yeah.
But red is, red is a close second.
Yeah, I think I'm biased based only on that to always go for the red team.
It's fun to play the bad guy every now and again, It's just fun.
Yeah. So for me, obviously with Red Alert, it's a basic, straightforward. It is another game of Risk, even to the point where if you're playing Soviet, you've got the world map behind you with the blue and red.
You do, yeah.
That's where Risk to me really comes into it. It really resembles it in that way.
Yep.
But yeah, so you're either allied and you're fighting to save the world from the commies, as comes up a lot in the sort of in the dialogue, or you're playing Soviet to take over the world as well.
Do you know there's another very good reason why it's good to play as the Soviets?
What would that be?
Well, because canonically the Allies win in Red Alert. They win World War II, and they beat back the Soviets. But if you play through as the Soviets and you are victorious in the Soviet campaign, the USSR becomes the dominant power, and through that dominance, Kane and the Brotherhood of Nod subsequently take control.
There he is. And that's exactly what I was talking about earlier when I said he may reappear somewhere else in the series.
Kane turns up in Red Alert 1, and at first you're like watching the cutscenes, you're like, is that Kane?
Because he's like whispering in Starlin's ear.
He's just there, and well, at first he's just kind of like handing papers and stuff, and you're like, what's going on here? Is that Kane? And then he starts whispering, and you're like, oh my god, it's Kane.
Yeah.
So what I really like about this is it does link the two timelines. You've got two ways that the history goes, and in the one side, you will get the Tiberium series, and in the other side, you get the Red Alert series. It doesn't make any sense because, in theory, it wouldn't have affected the fact that Tiberium would still be around. So Tiberium would have arrived in the Red Alert universe, but we'll ignore that because who cares? It's just so fun.
That bit. So you're in Buckingham Palace. Stalin has basically taken over the world, and then is poisoned by Nadia, who is his sort of right-hand lady.
Yes.
He's I think the thing with that is that there's been like a kind of a sexual thing where she's felt the need to be involved in that way. Because she does make a point to say, like, you'll never put your dirty hands on me again, or something like that, doesn't she? And poisons him, and then puts a few bullets in his side. and Kane is there and puts a bullet in Nadia.
And we have the Tiberium series.
Mm.
I loved Red Alert. I thought it
Yeah.
was fantastic. I loved the new units. It just improved upon the Command and Conquer game. You
Hmm.
know, it took that
Yeah.
engine and it improved it dramatically.
Yeah.
Loved it.
My first right, here's the thing, because I played Red Alert early
Mm,
and I didn't play it again. Well, I haven't played Red Alert again since.
yeah,
All right. I always had the memory of Albert Einstein
yeah,
killing Hitler with a handshake
yep.
and not remembering where that came from.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I always had that, like, I was like, was it a movie I watched? You know what I mean? And like, it's always been one of
That would
those,
be a
like,
mad movie. I would
yeah,
watch that
it's
movie.
been like
A
one of
Red
those,
Alert
like,
movie would be incredible.
yeah, it would be. It would be amazing. I'd love to watch a Red Alert movie. But it's been one of those, like, tip of the tongue, well, where is that? Where's that from? For years. And I've talked to people about it and been like, have you ever seen a movie where this happens? You know what I mean? Um,
Did
and
someone
then
tell you in the end, or
no, it was
so it was
going
when
back
you were researching this?
yeah, it was going back to this. I was like,
Ah,
that's where it's from. I had that realization. Yes, amazing.
time will tell. Sooner
So,
or later, time will tell.
yeah. So, ready for things to get even more batshit?
Oh, good God. If you thought the Tiberium universe was silly, you have no idea.
Yeah.
So the Allies won World War II, and in 1972, the United States Armed Forces are caught completely off guard in the opening cutscene by a sudden, massive Soviet invasion of the United States. Soviet aircraft, naval units, and all of that good stuff come in both the east and west coasts of America,
Mm-hmm.
and basically, oh yes, with the majority of Soviet forces coming through Mexico as well, starting World War III.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the US attempts to retaliate, but what happens, Daz?
So,
There's a boy.
there's a boy who can do things with his mind.
He can. He can.
Um,
Psychic boy.
let's introduce ourselves to the marvelous second best villain in the entire Command and Conquer world,
100% agree.
Yuri.
Yuri.
So Yuri is played by a very well-known actor that I've completely forgotten the name of right now.
So have
Um,
I. Oh,
but
he's superb. This
yeah.
this is where things get real crazy.
Hmm. So what's the name of the commander now in the Soviet?
Oh, I forget. Yeah, I can't
Romanov,
remember.
Commander
Romanov.
Romanov.
Yes, well done.
So Romanov is now he's now in charge of the whole Soviet forces,
Yes.
laying an attack on to well, basically the main focus is the US, but he's trying to take the world.
Yeah.
So the invasion starts with Washington DC,
Hmm.
which is a bold start.
Yeah.
Um, so Yuri, being his sort of second in command, is like a psychic, kind of almost like a mystical being, who sort of is not only the brains, because let's be fair, Romanov isn't very smart as a leader.
No, no, they make that quite clear.
Yeah, he's not only the brains, but he's the power force behind it. And we start to be introduced to things like psychic towers and the psychic beacons that are put up that will basically mind control will be used as a new form of warfare,
Yeah. Yeah.
which will lead to sort of things like the American president being taken over mentally and things like that in
Mm.
time and things like that. So yeah, it's a very interesting new take. We do see the
It is.
return. Do see the return of a friend in this one.
Yes, we
A
do.
friend to the Allies, Mr. Einstein himself, who shouldn't actually be alive at this point.
Interesting, that isn't it?
I think he died like 20 years before this takes place. So
Alternate timeline. You know,
yeah, so
things
yeah,
things have happened.
so it's 1972 that this
Yes.
starts off in. So World
Yeah.
War III, 1972, Romanov versus the Allied. And we have another great actor that I've forgotten the name of, who was in, I believe, he's in Twin Peaks.
Yeah. So we have Ray Wise, Udo
Mm,
Kier, Carrie Werher, and Barry Corbin in this one.
yes. So
Um,
fantastic acting.
so you're on the back foot as the Allies.
Mm-hmm.
You've been invaded, and you have to fight back this invading force.
Mm-hmm.
Remember when we were talking about Command and Conquer, and I said Command and Conquer has got the most badass commando of all time?
Yes.
I lied.
I know who you're thinking of.
Tanya.
Tanya.
Tanya is the most badass, and she was in Red Alert 1,
Mm-hmm.
but she really shines in Red Alert 2.
Oh yeah. So your character and her have this amazing sort of love-hate relationship throughout the plot,
You do.
where she does
Yeah.
not like to bow down to your,
She doesn't like to bow down to anyone.
yeah,
Tanya's a badass.
and like even to the point where you have this sort of mad like conference where you've got everybody on the line, like world powers, all on the screen,
Mm.
and she appears and she's like, "No, that's bullshit."
Yeah, she's like, oh, Christ, I'm not doing that.
Yeah, like she's one of my favorites.
She's tremendous.
Yeah,
Tremendous.
she's great. Yeah. So she is an explosive expert.
Yes.
She is basically a combat expert. She's badass. She will.
Absolutely.
And the good thing with her as well is you can see when you're doing campaigns as allied, which I did do in this game a little bit. She's actually on the field.
Yeah.
She's on the battlefield and she's blowing up bases and doing all sorts of things. Like it's
much the same as she was in Red Alert, but more so here.
Yeah.
She's like at the forefront of most of the missions. A lot of the missions are like Tanya based.
Yeah. And what I like as well, like I can't remember if this happens in Red Alert 1, but I know in Red Alert 2, where you've got your menu on the right, you've also got your little sort of comm screen.
I think no. Red Alert 2 started that. It was because it was started with Red Alert 2 and Tiberium Sun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Red Alert 2 is a modified Tiberium Sun engine, much like Red Alert was, to Command and Conquer.
Yeah. So yeah, having that and like every now and then she'll pop in and give you some sass.
Yeah, absolutely. I love all of that mid-game cutscenes. So we have better visuals, I would say, than Tiberium Sun. It's more colorful and it's more clear. It's very clear. It's a very clear image, kind of cartoony in a way, almost. And this game has got a much more comedic tone than Tiberium Sun. It's a stark contrast, and it actually begins the trend of the Red Alert series being much more lighthearted.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the more lighthearted series.
Yeah, I think what I really liked about it as well, some of the artwork that came along with it was very sort of wartime.
Yes.
It gave you that kind of like your country needs you kind of vibe.
It feels like when you're playing the game on either side, it just feels like if government propaganda was correct and right, and it was like if reality was what you see in wartime propaganda, that's basically Red Alert.
Yes,
that's the tone.
It's great. It's like aesthetically pleasing. It's like, I mean, I've got to be honest, red being my favorite color. I mean, there's a lot of red in that cover as well. So
there certainly is. The FMV sequences are back and just as good as ever. They're ridiculous now. We're into sidekicks and all sorts. The Red Alert series really is way more crazy. And I think the comedic tone kind of helps with that. Way more crazy than the Tiberium series. And I don't know whether it was just because I played as the Russians a lot more than the Allies. But as I feel like this game improves on almost every aspect of Tiberium Sun. I think it's probably the best game in the series. But I will say that I find it a little unbalanced. I think if you play as the Russians, you can dominate skirmishes so early on. Like, it is just, for me, there was never any competition. If you're playing against Russian forces, you're probably in for trouble. If you're playing as allies, it's a little unbalanced for me. But I absolutely loved Red Alert 2. I think it's the pinnacle of the gameplay in the Command and Conquer games.
Yeah, I think what is stemmed off to as well, with Yuri's Revenge. Did you ever play
Yuri's Revenge?
Did you play it?
Oh yeah.
Oh
no, this is where for me, like, the Red Alert series was crazy and stupid.
Yeah.
Nothing prepared me for what happens in Yuri's Revenge. So the game begins with the White House announcing DEFCON 2 status as Yuri, the former head of the Soviet Psychic Corps, plans to take over the world through mind control.
He
And
does indeed.
guess what, Daz?
What?
He bloody does it.
Mm-hmm.
He activates a secretly built network of psychic dominators around the world, and the US launches an airstrike on Alcatraz Island, where one of the psychic dominators, or the psychic dominator, is placed. Despite heavy casualties and loss of power, Yuri activates the others around the world.
Yeah.
And the whole planet comes under control of Yuri. So everything's lost. How could they possibly fix this, Daz? How can they get out of this situation?
They can't if you're playing Soviet, mate. No, I'm joking.
Well,
yeah, no, not true. So at this point, Romanov is obviously no longer a threat to anyone. Let's be fair.
No.
And I believe, if I remember rightly, there's a female. Is it a female lieutenant or a colonel who has a big part in the play to tracing the transmissions and finding out where Yuri is and things like that.
Yeah.
Again, this was early days, wasn't it? But I say early days. It was 2001, but still. But yeah, I think Yuri at this point as well. He's got Einstein working for him.
Yeah.
So he's captured Einstein. Tanya's back.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so I know Einstein kind of double crosses Yuri. Well, not double crosses, he sabotages him, let's be honest.
Yeah.
And he's sort of saved by Tanya, our personal hero. Yeah, and I cannot for the life of me remember how this, well, we'll call it DLC. It's an expansion pack.
Yeah.
But we'll call it DLC for short. I cannot for the life of me remember how this ends.
From memory, I believe it ends with the Allies going back in time. They go back in time, and they stop it from ever happening.
By not killing Hitler?
No. They go back in time to before Yuri took over everything. That's my memory of it. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that they go back in time and the timeline is changed. A commander a general who previously died is still alive. And you basically get the opening cutscene again, where they're like, they're like, Admiral, we found him. And or General, we found him. And instead of Yuri on the screen, it's the dead general that was lost during the campaign.
Wait. It's Carville, isn't it? The bald guy. Yeah. And then doesn't Yuri get eaten by a dinosaur somehow? Oh
yeah, he does, doesn't he? I think he might be right. In one of them, he does. Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Was that one thing we should go back to Carville a little bit.
No, he's imprisoned, isn't he? I thought he was imprisoned in like an isolation chamber. Maybe he dies later or something.
What am I can't remember. Of?
No, you might be right. I don't know. My memory of this one is like the trouble with this one is that unlike Tiberium Sun, Red Alert 2 is a complete bitch to get running on anything modern for some reason. It crashes really all the time. So I'm really hoping we get a remaster of this one because I'd love to play through it again. You might be right though. There must be. I think there is something where someone gets eaten by a dinosaur. I
thought he like got sent back in time and
you may be right.
I don't know.
Yeah, you may well be right. So Red Alert 2, like I said, for me, I think it was probably the best in the series in terms of gameplay. Superb changes in terms of the UI and everything like that. It's a refined Tiberium Sun.
Yeah.
And like I said, starts the comedic tone. Frank Klepacki still doing the soundtrack, did the soundtrack for Red Alert 1. Red Alert 2, he shines. Red Alert 2 is amazing. Hell March 2 is probably my favorite version of Hell March. There are 3 versions, and Red Alert 2 is probably my favorite one.
I really want to sort of just go back and listen to the soundtrack of Red Alert 2, to be honest, and just lie down with my headphones in and just take it all in for an hour or two,
Hell yeah. So, got some bad news.
What's up, mate?
The Soviet Union is facing defeat at the hands of the Allied nations.
Mm-hmm.
However, the Soviets use a time machine beneath the Kremlin. They travel back to Brussels in the year 1927 and they eliminate Albert Einstein, thus changing the future.
Dun, dun, dun. Wow.
There we go. And as a result, they return to the present and discover that is it Cherdenko is the premier of the Soviet Union, and Khrushchev's a bit upset about it. Let's say
a little.
The Soviets are on the brink of conquering Europe when suddenly the Empire of the Rising Sun in Japan declares war on both the Soviet Union and the Allies with a desire for world domination, something they perceive as their divine destiny. Due to the elimination of Einstein, nuclear weapons have not been invented, and the Soviet Union is incapable of stopping the invasion. Thus begins a war of three powers, a three-way war between the Soviet Union, the Allies, and the Empire of the Rising Sun.
Now we're fucking talking, Durs.
Red Alert 3, the most insane game in this entire franchise.
That is how you introduce a game. That is like if that was a book and what you just said was written on the back of the book, I would be buying that book right away.
Buy the book, man. This game is insane and ridiculous. The plot is just, it's terrible. The plot's terrible, but it's done in such a comedic way that it's just so much fun in its ridiculousness, you know?
Yeah. So, Emperor Ishiro. What a guy.
George Takei.
Yep. Amazing, right?
I love him. The cast in this one: J.K. Simmons, Tim Curry. This one is great. The FME sequences in this one are great.
Yeah, Tim Curry. I think he outshines everyone ever that he's ever in a title with, no matter what it is. But
for sure, I think that overall, I should say the FMV sequences overall are nowhere near as good as the previous in the series. But the actors, the three key actors there, really pull things together.
Yeah. 100%.
I would say.
Sorry.
That's okay. I was going to say I would say that I think the biggest issue for me with this one, and it's something they dabbled in the Command and Conquer universe previously. I'm not going to pretend like they never did, but they dive head first into sex appeal with the female characters in this one, which I'm fine with to an extent. But most of the cast of women in this are just models who can barely act.
Isn't Natasha Henstridge either in this one or was it two she was in?
No, I can't honestly tell you.
You know that one that was in Species, the sci-fi sex movie?
Oh, yeah. I love Species. Species 1's amazing.
Yeah, great movie.
The sequel's not so much, but the first one's great.
Is it this one she was in?
I think it is, actually. Yeah. I think you're right. It might be the second one. Oh, do you know they're bleeding together in my mind now? All I remember is that Tanya is now blonde and nothing like her original character in this one.
Much to my dismay.
Did not like. Yeah. Was not a fan. And I wasn't also, although I can forgive it more with Red Alert, I still wasn't a big fan. The General's engine was getting a bit old, and we have this cartoon look. Red Alert 3 is the first game to bring in this cartoon look, which follows over to Tiberium Twilight.
Yeah.
A lot of people hate the cartoon look. I can live with it because I think the Red Alert series is quite cartoony anyway.
Yeah.
So I can live with it here. I will say the water effects always looked amazing in this game. Really good for its time.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, definitely a big fan of the, like, I mean, I think I was young enough still to kind of not really know what I was thinking. Like, I was a young adult. I was a young adult.
I know I've already done a really bad joke during this, and I can't remember what it was now, but I did. I'm going to do another one because I have written in my notes Takei, dolphins, and bears. Oh my.
That's amazing. Yeah, I'm just
This, I
looking
mean,
back at.
we had some squid in the previous game, so we're not going to pretend like this came completely out of left field. But now
Yeah,
you have dolphins and bears and just craziness. We've got
yeah.
animals doing attacks now.
Oh yes. I'm just looking back at some imagery now, just flicking through it and sort of like just having that sort of absorption again with it, and
Yeah,
looking at the water, as you say, the white water.
it looks good.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Still looks kind of good today
It's
in a
beautiful.
stylized way. Um,
It's yeah, it's a bit Fortnite-y in its
it
art
is
style, but apart from that, yeah, I think it's great.
the um the Japanese Empire of the Rising Sun, as with everything. And now that we're at the end of the Tiberium series, of the Red Alert series, let's discuss it briefly. Obviously, being Japanese,
Hmm.
it's all mechs. They're all about the mechs.
Yep.
And this takes us to something that I guess is been discussed more in recent years over the kind of racial stereotypes that happen in the Red Alert series.
Yeah.
Now, on the one hand, they are pretty awful stereotypes. But I think it gets away with it for me because of its comedic tone and the fact that you have stereotypes across the board. You've got American stereotypes. The
Yeah.
American generals are so American in stereotype, it's ludicrous. I
Yeah.
think it is equal across the board in its stereotypes for me.
Yeah. No,
And
I'll
I
agree with
think it's
that.
fine as a result. They're just ridiculous in every sense.
Yeah. No, no,
Um,
I'll agree with that.
but yeah, I think this game was pretty much hated due to being so ridiculous. It kind of went so overboard that I think people kind of didn't like it. I didn't mind it because I thought Red Alert was quite ridiculous anyway.
Hmm.
It feels like the natural progression of the series for me, for
Yeah.
the Red Alert
Yeah.
series, just getting more and more ridiculous. But yeah, it was very dated at this point. It started looking quite dated.
Hmm.
Like I said, the General's engine was was old at this point. Um, but yeah, I quite enjoyed Red Alert 3. It's not the best in the series by a long shot, and it's very difficult to follow up Red Alert 2.
Yeah.
But I think they did the best they could with the engine they had. Frank Klepacki comes back, does a couple of tracks. Hell March 3 is stunning.
Hmm.
But most of the soundtrack feels like it feels like CNC still. There's a
Yeah.
few remixes of previous songs, which is nice to hear. Yeah, overall I didn't mind it. The maps are a little smaller. The maps got smaller for
Yeah,
some
they
reason.
did. Yeah.
But yeah, overall not the worst ending. Certainly a better ending to the Red Alert series than the Tiberium
Yeah.
series.
So, guess what?
What?
I did a bit of research real quick.
Oh,
Natasha Henstridge from Species
yes.
actually only appears in Kane's Wrath, the Red Alert 2 DLC. Or was it Red Alert 3 DLC? I
No,
can't remember.
if it's Kane's Wrath, that would be. I think that's Tiberium, isn't it?
Yeah,
It's
it's
the Tiberium.
Tiberium. Oh, yeah, of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
you're
Yeah, so.
right. I was thinking, like, I remember her when you said it. I was like,
Mm.
she is, but I don't know where she was. And I was trying to place her. You're right. She's in the in Kane's Wrath, which is the expansion to Command and Conquer 3.
Ah, right. Okay, yeah, that makes sense now.
Yeah,
Yeah, because you've got the person who plays Tanya
Mm.
in Red Alert 3 is actually what's her name? I've just been going through it a little bit and I've noticed.
I couldn't tell you.
Oh, that's really gonna bug me. Anyway,
Keep clicking
she's in
away.
like I think she's in like Scary Movie or something like that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, Daz,
Yes.
we're at the end of the Red Alert timeline. For now, there could be another Red Alert game in the future. Who knows? But for now, we're at the end of the Red Alert timeline.
I
Daz, are you Allied? Or are you Soviet? Or are you the Empire of the Rising Sun?
I'm Soviet.
So am I. I like this podcast. We're just agreeing 100%
Yeah.
down the line. Soviet all the way, every campaign, Soviet.
Yeah. 100%.
All the way.
Oh yeah.
So Yeah, actually, now that I think about it, all of the Red Alert stuff takes place in the past.
Hmm.
So the Tiberiums could still turn up in the Red Alert series if they decided to make one that was like Red Alert in the modern day.
Yeah,
Could still have Tiberium turn up in that universe, which is kind of interesting.
yeah.
So that was the Red Alert series done, Daz.
I can't believe we've got this far.
We've got this far, and we've only got one tiny timeline to go. It's a short
Generals.
timeline, which I forgot even existed. It is the Generals timeline, and I'm ashamed that I forgot about
This is
Generals.
this is the thing. I sent you a message
Mm.
earlier this morning saying, right, there's certain things I'm good with the Command and Conquer games,
Yeah,
but you may have to just school me when it comes to certain other ones.
yeah,
What I'm thinking of is generals as
yeah.
in general, basically.
In general, so Generals, I must confess, Generals is the one I've played the least.
Hmm.
Mainly because I have such a love for the Tiberium games, and I have
Yeah.
such a love for the Red Alert games. I remember being kind of annoyed that Generals was coming out because I wanted more Tiberium
Hmm.
or Red Alert. I didn't want a new universe again.
Yeah.
But to their credit, they decided to make a new universe, and it was, on the whole, from a gameplay perspective, very good.
Nice.
So Generals takes place in a speculative mid 2010 ish.
Okay.
And there's two main superpowers: the United States and the People's Republic of China. And
Okay.
they are the GLA. Then get involved. So we have America, as it were, fighting the People's Republic of China, and then the GLA, the Global Liberation Army, a borderless terrorist organization consisting of fanaticals. They seek
Fanatical,
to
fanatical.
fanaticals. That's how fanatical they are. Um, they basically look to liberate the world from the two oppressive peoples. Um,
Interesting.
so I wasn't a fan of this game when it was announced because I just wanted more Tiberium, to be honest,
Hmm.
or at the very least Red Alert. It was the first 3D strategy game in the Command and Conquer series, um, and it actually looked pretty damn good for the time, to be honest. I seem
Nice.
to remember being quite impressed with it when it came out. Unfortunately, being 3D, being that early 3D or 2000s 3D, it's aged worse than the 2D games have. That just happens.
Yeah.
3D seems to always age worse than a 2D game anyway. That's just the way it goes. But it did look good when it came out. Um, uh, I thought the gameplay was terrific.
Did we have any cast members come in that were,
Well,
obviously we've had some sort of big names previously. Did
Daz,
that?
I've
Hmm?
got some terrible news for you. In probably the worst thing that this game does, there are no cutscenes.
No.
No, no cutscenes. It's a real disappointment. The game
Oh,
does not even feel like CNC to me for that reason. It's missing cutscenes altogether. Um, yeah, it
why
just doesn't have.
why would they
And
do that?
as a result of that, I would say the story to Generals feels irrelevant.
Yeah.
Really, I mean, it sets the scene, and that's pretty much it. It is
Hmm.
kind of irrelevant. Similarly, I didn't think that the soundtrack was terribly good. I find it quite bland,
Hmm.
personally. Um, the main thing that this game succeeds at is the gameplay, which I think is terrific. Um, you've got China and you've got the US, which are massively powerful, but very expensive in their units and their
Hmm.
buildings. So they've got extremely powerful units, but they're very, very expensive to produce. While you have the GLA with much less powerful units, but they're very cheap to produce.
I
So there's
see.
two very different styles of gameplay.
Hmm.
Obviously, playing as the terrorist factions, you don't have those big units. You just have, your terrorist units, but they're very cheap to produce,
Hmm.
very quick to build. So you have to use numbers over those, core powerful vehicles. Similarly, gone is Tiberium, and or instead you have supply locations which you have to capture.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm. Interesting. I've read that this was banned in China
Yes, it was. Yeah.
due to destruction of certain things in game, so like
Yeah. Yeah.
Tiananmen Square and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, yeah. Okay, so a controversial title.
A controversial title for sure. And like I said, I don't think it's certainly story wise, it's almost irrelevant, which is why I said I'd forgotten this timeline when we were talking Command and Conquer. It didn't even come into my mind, and the reason for that is because of this here. It just without the cutscenes, it just doesn't feel like Command and Conquer.
Yeah.
But it was a good gameplay experience.
Well, that's good then.
And obviously, it did carry the series forward with Tiberium Wars and Red Alert 3 using this engine.
Yeah. And didn't this game had like a world builder included by the looks of it as well? Is that right?
Like, don't remember that, but that may well be the case.
Apparently, there's like a map editor built into it where you could.
There may well be.
Like a terraforming tool and an intelligent road system and all that kind of stuff, and you could like use a tool to drop like flora around the map and stuff. So that's interesting.
So in terms from memory, I believe that this game ended with the Chinese winning. I think. I believe that the Chinese defeat the GLA forces in Europe. But yeah. Like I said, as a game, it was fine. The gameplay was really good. It looked pretty good for the time, I thought. Yeah, just without those cutscenes, without the memorable music, the music's quite bland. It's kind of the forgotten Command and Conquer game for me, personally.
Yeah. I mean, I never touched it.
But it was fun anyway. As a game, it was fine. But like I said, real disappointment to not have those cutscenes, which for me are core to the Command and Conquer experience.
Yeah.
Daz, we did it.
We got through, mate.
We got through Command and Conquer finally. We're a couple of weeks late, guys, and apologies for that, but life does sometimes get in the way.
It does.
I think we're going to move the show to Sundays at 6 p.m. because that gives us an extra day just in case, work's crazy or life things happen. It'll give us the Sunday. We'll endeavor to record on the Saturday anyway.
Yeah.
But so where we can, we'll do
the way I am, for everyone who knows, I work 2 weekends a month. One of them is a full weekend and one of them is just a Saturday. So I do have days off in the week to counteract that. So I'll be having a chat with Durs and we'll be arranging to record at a time we're both available. But yeah, main upload will probably go up on a Sunday now, 6 p.m. as normal.
Yeah, we'll publish that, but I think it will just save us. Obviously, last week couldn't be helped, technical issues and all that. But going forward, we will endeavour to do that, and I think giving us that extra day will definitely help.
Yeah, absolutely.
So this one will be on at 6 p.m. this evening, and the next show will be 6 p.m. next Sunday. Daz, what should we chuck in this poll?
How about we try something a little different? How about, because Facebook, the way it is,
irritating, you mean?
In order to do a poll, you have to have a separate group.
Oh, I know. And then people can't vote unless they join the group, and I don't want a group because we've got a page, and I was happy with the page.
So how about we do it this way? We'll post this at 6 p.m.
Yeah.
In the comments below, just put a title, put a genre, put whatever you want to hear covered.
Let's do that.
As long as it's game related, throw it in there, and we'll do that.
And it doesn't have to be deep dives. Happy to do these deep dives. I really enjoy them. If you want us just to talk about a single, talk about a single game, talk about our game memories, talk
everybody's
about a
golf,
genre.
whatever.
We could do genres. We started doing genres, and then people seem more interested in the deep dives. But whatever you guys want, we're happy to do the deep dives. We're happy to do the genres. We're happy to do just video game memories. We're happy to do whatever you fancy. Let us know. And assuming me and Daz have enough common ground, having played both, both of us played the games or the subjects, then we will cover them.
Yeah. So it's, as always, it's down to you guys mainly. Always happy to. Me and Daz are both always happy to do the research, jump into a bit of gameplay, watch some YouTube footage, things like that, and really sort of get to grips with the series and discuss what we feel on it. It's good to be back.
It's great to be back, and we hope to be back every week from now on. Apologies for last weekend. Like I said, couldn't be helped. But moving forward, we should be here every single weekend on Sundays at 6 p.m. Now, when Daz gets the Command and Conquer remaster, in a couple of weeks' time, me and Daz are going to face off. We're going to do a live stream.
Yes.
We're going to face off Command and Conquer.
So the stream will be available via the Facebook page.
Correct. I have tested that. I tested it with Doom. Played through episode 1 of Doom. Then yesterday I played a bit of the remaster. So yes, I need to tweak the audio. That's the only thing I need to sort out. But other than that, yeah, it will be on the Facebook page. I'm going to keep doing streams every now and again when I'm just playing games.
Yeah, I'll do the same. I think I'll just
through there.
Yeah. All I need to do is sort of link my Streamlabs account to the Facebook page for it. So that's fine.
Cool.
I'll do that as well. I'll just make sure that we're not doing it at the same time and causing issues.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah. Just let me know, and I'll let you know if I plan to do something.
Cool.
But great. Cheers for that, Daz, and cheers to everyone who listened this far in. A slightly shorter episode. We got through it this time.
We did indeed. Absolutely.
But, that was Command and Conquer throughout the entire franchise. Daz, I know what you're going to say, but give me a faction. Give me your favorite faction throughout all of it. Riddler.
The Brotherhood of Nod. Forever.
Peace through power.
Peace through power.
Daz, it's been a pleasure as always.
Oh, yes.
And everybody, we will catch you next week. Be sure to comment. Let us know what you want to hear next. What should we talk about next week? Let us know, and hope you enjoy the show. Take care.
See you next week, guys.